Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam.
Welcome to the exceedingly beautiful Shri Radha Vinobihari Mandir, Shri Vrindavana Dham. Shri Gurudev ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Rupanuga Gaudiya Bhasya ki jai, Pati Pavan Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Prem Purushottam Shachinandana Gaura Hari ki jai, Radha Vinobihari Ju ki jai, Radha Ramana Ju ki jai, Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Harinama Sankirtana ki jai, Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Nidai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Gaur. 1 second, I just have a short.
Dandavat dear Vaishnavas. Swagatam, Swagatam, Swagatam. Welcome. Kishori is our lighting master here, so very good. Okay, welcome all beautiful Vaishnavas. Dandavat Pranam.
So we will begin with Mangalacharan. Mangalacharan is the auspicious invocation calling for the grace, the mercy, the presence, the sidelong glances of our beloved Srila Gurudev, of our beloved Srila Prabhupada, of our Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Varga, of Pati Pavan Shri Nityananda Prabhu, Prem Purushottam Shachinandan Gaura Hari, going all the way back to the original Guru who is Krishna himself and his Guru of Prem, Vrishabhananandani Srimati Radha Thakurani. As Krishna states, Radhikar Prema Guru Ami Shishya Nata. Radhika is my Guru of Prem, and I'm simply her dancing pupil. She makes me dance various novel dances according to her tune. So you can find Mangalacharan on page 1 of this beautiful bhajan treasure trove, Sri Gaudiya Giti Gucha, starting with Vandeham, Shri Guru, Shri Yuttapada Kamalam. If you do not have this, we have Jiva Pavana Prabhu. I think, is he here yet? He should be coming any minute. Jiva Pavana Prabhu very kindly posts the bhajans along with their translations and beautiful commentaries from our acharyas in the comment section of the thread. And then we have Anjali Anjali, who today is posting with red chilies. Muy picante. She's posting the page number and she also posts the downloadable PDF version of this Sri Gaudiya Giti Gucha for your forever perusal. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanditam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Caitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagano Lalita Shri Vishakhamritangscha Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayanitti Namine Shri Krishna Leela Katane Sudaksham Audarya Madhurya Gunaischa Yuktam Varam Varinyam Purusham Mahantam Narayanam Tam Shirashan Namami Tridandinam Bhakta Shiromarincha Shri Krishna Padabhidataika Hriddi Chaitanya Leelamrita Sarasaram Narayanam Tvam Satatam Prapadye Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Gaura Presthaya Bhutale Srimad Bhakti Pragyana Keshavoiti Namine Atimartya Charitraya Swashritanancha Paline Jiva Dukhe Sadarthaya Shri Nama Prema Gaine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shri Varshabharavi Devi Dayitaya Kripabdhaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnano Daine Prabhave Namaha Madhuryo Jvala Premadhya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruddhapa Siddhanta Dhvantaharine Namo Gaura Kishorai Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambhara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodayo Sachirananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Virbhava Bhume Swam Nirdeshtha Sajana Priya Vaishnava Sarva Bhoma Shri Jaganathayate Namah Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Jayatang Surato Pango Mama Mandamatirgati Matsarvasva Padambojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyat Vrindaranya Kalpadrumada Shrimad Ratnagara Sinhasanastho Shri Shri Radha Shri Govinda Devo Preshthalibhi Sedyamano Smarami Shri Mandra Sarasaramhi Vangshiva Tattatastitaha Karsham Venu Svanay Gopir Gopinatha Shri Estunaha Vrindaye Tulasi Devya Priyayai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavatyai Namo Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Jaya Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Cheto Darpanamarjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam vidyavadhu jivanam anandam buddhivardhanam pratipadam purnamritashvadanam sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Harer Nam Harer Nameva Kevalam Kalo Nastyeva 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 Gatiranyatha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Dandavat pranam all Vaishnavas. Now we will call out for the mercy of Shri Gurudev. Shri Guru Charana Padma, Kevala Bhakati Sadma, Mandomvi Savdhan Mate, page 28 by Srila Narottam Das Thakur. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Vando Prabhupada ki jai, Gurupan Gaudiya Guruvarga ki jai, Shri Guru Parampara ki And now we will call for the mercy of the Vaishnavas. Kirupe Paibo Seva Mui Durachar by Sri Narottam Das Thakur, page 45. Kirupe Paibo Seva Mui Durachar Kirupe Paibo না হইল আমার শ্রী গুরু বৈষ্ণবের না হইল আমার অশেষ মায়াতে মগ্ন হইল অশেষ মায়াতে মগ্ন হইল বৈষ্ণবেতে লেশমাত্র রতি না জন্মিল বৈষ্ণবেতে লেশমাত্র রতি না জন্মিল বিষয়ে ভুলিয়া অন্ধ হইল দেবানিশি বিষয়ে ভুলিয়া অন্ধ হইল দেবানিশি বলে পাশো দিতে তীরে মায়া সে পিশাচি বলে ফাঁসো দিতে তীরে মায়া সে পিশাচি ইহারে করিয়া চারানো না যায় ইহারে করিয়া চারানো না যায় সাধু কৃপা বিনায়ার নাহি কো পায় সাধু কৃপা বিনায়ার নাহি কো পায় অদোষদর্শী প্রভু পতিত উদ্ধার Gaudiya Vaishnava Thakur ki jai. And now we will call for the mercy of Sri Rupa Goswami Pad. Hari He Sri Rupa Goswami, page 199 in our Sri Gaudiya Gita Gucha. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has, as he always does, brilliantly placed the Ashtakams, in this case, Sri Upadeshamrita, in the form of bhajan. So this is based on verse 8 of Sri Upadeshamrita, Tannama Rupa Charitari Sukirtanan, Smrityo Kramena Rasanamanasi Niyojya, Tishtham Braje Tat Anuragi Jananugami, Kalam Nayat Akilam Ityupadesha Saram. So page 199, Hari He Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Guru Rupete. Sri Rupa Goswami in the form of Gurudev has whispered this advice into my ear. Now for Yash J, your question yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, this also tells Sri Rupa Goswami in the form of Sri Guru has whispered this advice into my ear. So this is the meaning of parampara also. Parampara means the substance is unchanged, or as our Gurudev would so sweetly say, same wine, new bottle. Sri Rupa Goswami has whispered into my ear in the form of my Gurudev. So this is parampara. It is coming through, unbroken. This nectar is being handed down, and it is coming into our ears by the mercy of our Sri Gurudev. So Hari He Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Guru Rupete. Hari He Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Guru Rupete. Shiksha Dilamo Kane Hari Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Guru Rupete. Shiksha Dilamo Kane Jano Moro Katha Namero Kangayo Pratipare Namo Gane Jano Moro Katha Namero Kangayo Pratipare Namo Gane Shri Rupa Goswami, Shri Guru Rupete. Shiksha Dilamo Gane Hari He Shri Rupa Goswami, Shri Guru Rupete. Shiksha Dilamo Gane Krishna Namo Guna Sucharita Paramo Jatane Gauri. Krishna Namo Guna Sucharita Paramo Jatane Gauri. Rasana Manase Karho Nijo. Rasana Manase Karho Nijo. Krama Vidhi Anusari. Krama Vidhi Anusari. Braje Kurivas Raganuga Hoya Smarano Kirtano Koro. Braje Kurivas Raganuga Hoya Smarano Kirtano Koro. Enikillo Karo Karaho Japano. Enikillo Karo Karaho Japano. Shri Sanatana Goswami Pad ki jai, Shri Rupa Gaudiya Guru Varga ki jai, Shri Shad Goswami Prabhu ki jai. So as I was calling out this bhajan, I was remembering our Srila Gurudev, how he was the embodiment of this teaching. And I was reading this teaching of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which is actually the teaching of Sri Rupa Goswami, because all of our Rupanuga Guru Varga are teaching the same essential thing. That's what makes them Rupanuga. Sudevi, can you adjust the camera so it does not cut off Srimati Radhika's skirt, please? Sorry about that. Okay, it just needs to go that way a bit. There you go. Thank you.
Too much?
No, it should be
sure?
fine. We'll see.
Okay.
Yes. So, as I was calling out this bhajan, I remembered that recently a very prominent figure from a very prominent society was, how do you say, kind of dismissing our Srila Gurudev because he was teaching, from this prominent person's perspective, something which was not exactly in line with the moods or teachings of our Srila Prabhupada. And as I am reading these bhajans, as I am studying and also reading Srila Prabhupada's books, for someone to claim such a thing means that they have not begun to understand what Srila Prabhupada was trying to give. And I know it sounds controversial, but because I witnessed it, I must say something. What our Srila Gurudev was giving was the same thing that his Gurudev and our Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada and Bhaktivinoda Thakur and all of our Rupanuga Guru Varga are giving, especially Sri Rupa Goswami, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Our Srila Prabhupada gave Upadeshamrita as one of the primary, first, it was nectar of instruction, first gifts to the world. Not only that, he gave Krishna book, which is the pastimes of Krishna. He gave Srimad-Bhagavatam, but before he even completed it, he gave Śrī Caitanya Charitamrita. If Srila Prabhupada did not intend for the devotees to be able to progress, he would not have given them all of this. What he spoke in his lectures, it may have been careful according to time, place, and circumstance, and depending upon the level of those who were sitting before him. But like our Srila Gurudev has emphatically declared again and again and again, 1,000 times, he gave everything in his books. And I can attest to it myself, being born and raised in ISKCON, growing up within that society, and then coming to my Gurudev in 1996. When my Gurudev started speaking from, it was the first one, actually, interestingly enough, it was verse 5, I believe, of Upadeshamrita, from Srila Prabhupada's own purports, and he was explaining it. And for the first time, I felt like, wow, my eyes are being opened. I had read it and heard it so many times before. But when that person who has the darshan, who is a tattvadarshi, is speaking it, they're able to open it and reveal those jewels within it and make it make sense. Yes, Krishna Premavati. So, first of all, if someone has accepted someone as Shiksha Guru and then rejects them, it means that one, they don't know who Guru is, and two, that means they don't have Nishta. Because if you accept someone as Guru and then you reject them as Guru, it means that you have not yet been able to determine what is or what is not Guru. Why would someone reject someone if they're preaching everything Rupa Goswami and Bhaktivinoda Thakur and our Guru Varga and everything that's within Srila Prabhupada's books? What Srila Prabhupada is telling is the same thing as Rupa Goswami. Actually, our Srila Prabhupada has not written any new book. He is presenting the books of our previous acharyas and presenting his commentaries to them and his translations, but he has not written any new book. Do we know any new book that he has written? Krishna book, but that's all based on Srimad-Bhagavatam. But he didn't manufacture or make any new book. And this is also a testament to his adherence to his lineage, that I'm only presenting what my Gurudev and my Guru Varga are giving. This is parampara. Rupa Goswami was specifically tasked by Mahaprabhu with blessings of all Vaishnavas to manifest Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, this Upadeshamrita, Ujjvala Nilamani, so many other beautiful transcendental scriptures. Sanatana Goswami also manifested Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita and so many other scriptures. But our Srila Prabhupada did not make any new book. He gave us Srimad-Bhagavatam, which was ordained and given or ordered by Narad Muni to Vyasadeva to manifest it, and then he gave the commentaries on it. So our Srila Gurudev is showing, look, 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 it's everywhere, it's everywhere. If Srila Prabhupada did not intend for us to ever be able to progress, then he would not have presented to us Upadeshamrita, which says, the essence of all advice is to always, what is it? Tishtam rajetad anuragi jananugami, is to always reside in Vrindavan, under the guidance of an anuragi jan, here practicing raganuga bhakti, raganuga hoya, always remembering Krishna's names, forms, qualities, and pastimes in sequence and going deep into kirtan of Krishna's names, forms, qualities, and pastimes without cessation 24 hours a day. In other words, if he didn't accept that there's the possibility that one could take shelter of such a raganuga bhakta or raganuga or ragatmik associate and enter into the path of raganuga bhakti, he would not have presented these scriptures. Otherwise it would be a moot point. Why would he present that? That is the essence of all advice. And then the next one, oh, it would be foolish. Show me that person with any intelligence who would not want to reside on the banks of Radha Kund at the foot of Giriraj, remembering the pastimes of Radha and Krishna 24 hours a day. So our Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, he continuously and repeatedly stated that our Srila Prabhupada did not intend for everyone to just remain in the first level, kindergarten, or even first grade forever. That after 30, 40, 50 years of chanting Hare Krishna and practicing the path of bhakti, one should be able to progress. It should not be repressed. It should be allowed to manifest. And why would all of those instructions be presented within his books if he did not intend for there to be progression? Is it only that he can progress and persons who are outside of his society are able to progress? And so many of the seniors were going to senior Vaishnavas and studying under their tutelage with the hopes of developing and progressing. And the instructions and the teachings that our Gurudev were giving were completely in line with all evidence from Rupa Goswami, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, everything that's in our Srila Prabhupada's books. It was all within there. And so when I was reading this, Vraje Kori Bhasa Raganubhavaya Smarana Kirtana Koro, this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, not even his teaching. He's just representing Rupa Goswami's teaching from Tannama Rupa Charitari Sukirtananu, coming from Upadeshamrita, residing in Braj as a Raganuga Bhakta, engage in Smaran and Kirtan of the Lord. Indeed, spend all of your time in this way. Accept this as the essence of all instructions. So if someone is actually doing it, if someone is actually practicing it, and also sharing it, teaching it, what has been presented by Srila Rupa Goswami, what has been presented and commented on by all of our acharyas, including our Srila Prabhupada, how are they not in line with Srila Prabhupada? The only one not in line with Srila Prabhupada is the one who's denying that this process can actually take place. This process is our process. Mahaprabhu did not come to give Vaidhi Bhakti. It is a necessary step for the general populace. But Mahaprabhu did not come to give that. He came to give Raganuga Bhakti, to awaken it. Prem Ras Niryash Gorite Ashvadam. He came to taste that highest Prema Ras, Srimati Radhika's bhavs of love and affection for Krishna. And as a natural, subsequent, you can call it incidental emotion, as a result of that, he wanted all to be able to experience this kind of beautiful, sweet, spontaneous love and affection for Radha and Krishna. That is called Raganuga Bhakti. Raga Marga Bhakti Loke Korite Pracharam. This is what he was preaching to the world and what he wanted to awaken within the world. And so for our Gurudev to make the claim that this is what our Srila Prabhupada wanted to give, this is not unfounded. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada also was very heavily cutting jungles. He spent so much time cutting jungles, he even expressed that he became frustrated with it. At the very end, he said, I wanted to give this Raganuga Bhakti, but who's qualified to receive it? I had to spend all of my time cutting jungles. Then his face became reddish, and he started glorifying this path of Raganuga Bhakti. And he was also requesting, who did he request? Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj to sing Shri Rupa Manjari Pada Semor Sampada. So he's showing what he wants to give. All of our Rupanuga Guru Varga naturally want to give what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to give. And what did he want to give? He gave it through Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Caitanya Manobhishtam. His inner heart's desire, Sthapitam Yena Bhutale, was established within this world by Srila Rupa Goswami Pad. Now, our Srila Prabhupada gave Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. This is Rupa Goswami's work. He presented Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and our Srila Prabhupada also gave the translations and commentaries for it. Srila Rupa Goswami gave Upadeshamrita. Our Srila Prabhupada presented it with translations and commentaries. And Srila Prabhupada said, we are Rupanuga. This Krishna consciousness movement is Rupanuga Vaishnavism. So when someone is actually, really, truly applying it, practicing it, is acting within that realm, and there is no flaw in their practice whatsoever. For someone, I'm going to go as far as to say, who is coming from a neophyte platform to deny that anyone ever would have the capacity to do such a thing is quite kanishta. It is degrading the process of bhakti as given by all of our Guru Varga, including Srila Prabhupada, and trying to keep it all on the lowest common denominator. It is possible. It must be possible. It should be possible. And in fact, it is a reality. And to deny that reality is only to maintain one's own repression within the material world. One cannot progress properly. Krishna is not attracted by all of the prayers of those who are approaching him in fear. Vaidhi Bhakti. You can read it straight in Sri Caitanya Charitamrita. I'm not at all attracted by the prayers of those who are approaching me in a mood of awe and reverence and fear. Aishvarya Gyana. Krishna is not attracted. It doesn't touch his heart. But those who approach him with love, spontaneous love and affection, in the mood of his Brajabasis, especially his own eternal associates and those who have that mood, oh, it is like nectar to his ears. Not only that, it fully controls him. Not even if they're praying, even if they're chastising him, using cutting words like lampat chor. Mahaprabhu uses the word lampat. Lampat means cheater, davachi, like it's a cutting word. Even if you are lampato, ashlishyava paradatampi nashtumam adarshanan marmahatam karotva yatatava vidhatu lampato mat prananatas tu saevanapara. You are always my worshipful Lord. My prananat doesn't mean exactly Lord. It means the essence. You are my very life's breath. I have no existence. I cannot even consider one breath without you. Prananat. Mat prananatas. Tusa evanapara. There's no condition for it whatsoever. No condition. Even if you give every reason for my love to break, not only will it not break, it will increase forevermore and more and more forever. So, I also want to add that there are so many who are claiming to be following Raganuga Bhakti, and they may be misapplying it. But just because there are thousands of false gurus, which we know that there are, does not mean that there isn't a real guru. Just because there might be thousands of false Raganuga or Raganuga Bhaktas does not mean that there's not a real Raganuga Bhakta or Ragatmika Bhakta. Just because millions will only want to stay in the realm of Vaidhi does not mean that there is not such a thing as Raganuga Bhakti. And it does not mean that out of millions of those, maybe one or two may be able to progress to that level. It may be that it is beyond the realm of that personality. Maybe it was too high for those persons, and maybe too high for those persons who are trying to nourish their own followers, because they cannot nourish them beyond their own level, Srila Prabhupada says. But that does not mean that others, or even those persons, do not have the right or the qualification to continue to progress on the path of bhakti, and not just Vaidhi Bhakti, Raganuga Bhakti, which is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give. So our Srila Gurudev was revealing these truths to the senior Vaishnavas, and so many of them were very, very inspired. And they were sharing these truths, in a trickling way to some of their followers. And there's no harm in that. There's no harm in that. The harm is when these truths, which is what Rupa Anuga Bhakti is, these truths are being repressed. No, you cannot progress. No, you cannot go beyond me. We know some like this. We were chanting a lot of Harinam at one point, and someone who was a little bit senior to us found out that we were, and their first statement was, I can't let you get ahead of me. That's not, I can't let you get ahead of me. You came after me. I can't let you get ahead of me. That is matsarya. It is envy. It is jealousy. And then there's the mood of repression. We must be able to accept that the entirety of what he gave may be applicable to one or more personalities. Otherwise, why would he give it? And we must also assume that he himself was practicing such. Our Gurudev witnessed it. So many witnessed it. How he was doing intense bhajan. How he was chanting. How he was weeping. How he was praying and crying. You can read it in his own writings. Why am I speaking like this with so much enthusiasm? Because we have seen again and again how persons, I have to say honestly, we have heard the cassettes. We have the recordings. These personalities were falling at the feet of our Srila Gurudev, saying, you are our Shiksha Guru, we see you as non-different from our Diksha Guru. They were doing arti and everything for years. Same personalities. And one time somebody said, you're giving even more than our Prabhupada. And our Gurudev became so furious and said, how dare you say such a thing? And he kicked everyone out and said, I don't want to see you. At least for the next day. You can hear it. It's there. He got really upset. You cannot speak like this. It is called overstepping Maryada. You don't overstep proper etiquette, Vaishnava etiquette. He is my Shiksha Guru. How can you speak like this? It's not proper. We have the photos also. Offering Dandavat Pranam, offering Arti. The videos are also present. The recordings are also present. What is it that would make someone reject a true Raganuga Bhakta or avoid someone like that? This is aparad. This is also desire for position, for name, for fame, and all of these things. So I'm speaking very, very strongly because you can look at every single word our Gurudev has spoken. You can look at every activity that our Gurudev has done. I remember when it was 1996 and the parikrama came to Sri Keshavji Gaudiya Math. The parikrama came to Sri Keshavji Gaudiya Math. And our Gurudev was there. And he was saying, how can I become a member of your society? I've been chanting a minimum of 64 rounds a day, maybe twice that, for the last 50 years. Do I have to reduce that and chant only 16? Do I have to reject my Gurudev and accept initiation from anyone who is currently endorsed? Our Srila Prabhupada said that his Gurudev had gone back to Krishna. That means he's a pure and transcendental and qualified personality. So my Gurudev was saying, do I have to reject him? What do I have to do? Am I the only one who's not allowed? Am I overqualified? Tell me what I have done wrong so that I can make amends. But there's no word, no teaching, no instruction, no practice that he was doing that wasn't in line with our Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So maybe it wasn't along the same lines as what Srila Prabhupada was teaching to the new devotees. But Srila Prabhupada also adjusted his approach.
But they also weren't new devotees.
Those persons who were coming to him weren't new devotees. Those persons who were coming to our Gurudev were within the highest echelons of that society.
And Gurudev told me that they were going to Radhakund.
Wait. So, these were the cream of the crop, you can say, the leaders of the leaders, who were going, who were listening, who were trying to progress, who wanted to know more about this process of Raganuga Bhakti. And this is natural if one wants to progress. As one is diving more deeply into Harinam, more deeply into the teachings of Rupa Goswami and Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, one will have to go in that direction. What was Srila Prabhupada teaching the devotees in 1965 and 1966? Look at the old black and white videos. Even when Gargamuni was there as a 1-week devotee, long hair, and he was trying to speak something, Kirtanananda peeks around the corner in the black and white video at 26 2nd Avenue. Actually, we all want to be gopis. That's what Srila Prabhupada was teaching at that time. Those devotees had that understanding. And then Srila Prabhupada had to adjust over time. And our Gurudev did the same thing. First, it was those who were the most senior who were coming. Shyamanani Didi, Vrindavana Dasa Didi, Tamal Krishnamar, Giridhar Swami, Burijan Prabhu, you name it, one after so many. And then, after some time, I remember in 1996 how our Gurudev was teaching and preaching. And then when the crowds started coming, and newer, meaning fresh persons were coming to him, his preaching adjusted over time to accommodate the greater crowd. But that does not deny those higher teachings or conceptions, or that anyone who has been practicing for 30 or 40 years or more cannot endeavor to progress. So when I was reading this bhajan, Hari He Shri Rupa Goshaya Shri Guru Rupete, I was very clearly seeing that this is the teaching of Rupa Goswami, this is the teaching of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, this is the teaching of all of our Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Varga. And if one would assume that our Srila Prabhupada is a true Rupanuga, an eternal associate of the Lord, and that he is actually, in fact, qualified to bring us to this point, then this is also his teaching. And I don't assume it because my Gurudev has emphatically declared 1,000 times over that he is a true Rupanuga in every sense of the word, and that he can give us every perfection, all the way to Radha Dasyam, a true Rupanuga in every sense. He is qualified to give all of that. And yes?
Srila Gurudev told me he knew they were not qualified, but lots of them were going to the Radha Kumbhavaji, so he had to tell them in our line. Yes.
So there was some 27-page thing of accusations which came against our Gurudev. And Sudevi, when she first met him, had received it. And she said, I don't understand what all of this is. And our Gurudev was going through it one at a time and explaining himself, basically, reconciling everything. That he's speaking too high for those persons. They're not qualified to hear such high topics. And Gurudev said it's true. They weren't qualified. But they were going to the Radha Kund Babajis. The Sahajya Babajis. Not all Radha Kund Babajis are bad. Make sure we understand that. But there were Sahajya Babajis they were going to. And he said, didn't Swamiji tell them not to go? But they were going and they were hearing it. All of these high topics, but in the wrong mood, in the wrong way. So I had to again tell them, according to our Gaudiya Vaishnava, sorry, not Gaudiya Vaishnava because they also consider themselves Gaudiya Vaishnava, but according to our lineage, Bhaktivinoda Dhara, according to our conceptions, I had to tell them again to help them to come into the proper moods and proper conceptions. So he acknowledged, yes, it was too high. But our Gurudev spent a lot of time, especially the first few years of his international preaching, telling us what is Rupanuga, what is Raganuga, what is the goal of Rupanuga, what is the goal of sadhan. What Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu came to give, what Rupa Goswami came to give, so that we can establish our goal, otherwise there would be no meaning to our sadhana. Sadhana means the practices that one undertakes to achieve a particular goal. So those persons who were with him for many years understood very clearly his meanings. Some of them twisted his meanings, and even sometimes they would take something that he directly said, but they understood what he meant. And our Gurudev explained straight up to Sudevi, he said, they knew my meaning, but they twisted it to make something else out of it, because he had spoken on those conceptions many times. And he said, you see any one of them speak for hours and hours in Hindi and see if they don't make any mistake, physical mistake in there, you know, maybe the word or the conception twist. He said, it's not my first language. I was not perfectly accomplished in English, but anyhow, I was trying my best and they knew my meaning, but they twisted it. So those persons who were dedicating themselves at his lotus feet, accepting him as Shiksha Guru, same as Diksha Guru, and subsequently rejected. For what reason? No good reason. They cannot give one good reason. I saw that there was this kind of mood of denigration. It was a mood of dismissal. And because I saw it, I have to say something. Others saw it also. If I don't say something, then I will be guilty of, you can say, complicity through my silence. If I don't say anything. So I have seen, what I saw was a unfair, even somewhat mean-spirited dismissal of all of the endeavor and help that our Gurudev had tried to give. He wasn't going out of his way to them. They were going out of their way to him. They were asking questions. He was revealing the answers from our Shastra, from our Guru Varga, from Prabhupada's books. There's no harm in that. And then, subsequently, they're like, oh, he's speaking too high. That's like me asking you, so, who's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Well, he's Krishna. Is there anything special about him? Yes, well, he's Krishna trying to taste the moods of Srimati Radhika. What do you mean? Well, he's Krishna, but he's trying to taste Radhika's moods of praying, love and affection for Krishna. Therefore, he's Krishna covered in Radhika's bhavs and her moods and her complexion, naturally. Oh, you're speaking too high. But you just asked me. That's what he is. It says, it's there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Oh, but Prabhupada didn't speak that publicly. Our Gurudev wasn't speaking it publicly either. It was in a private session with seniors who have been chanting and who were the leaders for 30, 40 years. What?
I said Gurudev didn't put those tapes out.
Yeah, Gurudev didn't publish the cassettes. He was in his room or in a small darshan with seniors. And they were asking questions, wanting evidence from Shastra, which he was presenting. And then they took it and said, well, you're speaking too high. So what to do? In 1996-97, our Srila Gurudev said something very interesting. He said, Swami Maharaj requested me to help them. And we have that also proven. It was one of the very last conversations where our Srila Prabhupada actually spoke. It was recorded in Bangla. And he was beseeching our Gurudev, please help my disciples. So our Gurudev said, he requested me to help, now they're telling me not to. He said, who should I listen to? My Shiksha Guru or them? He said, even if they don't want me to help, still I must try. Even if they're rejecting, still I must try because I've been given the order from above. So this was his mood. And first he told us personally in Singapore. He said Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj was there. So I didn't need to go anywhere. But after the devotees came crying to me about how Srila Bhakti Dakshak Sridhar Maharaj was being treated, how Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj was being treated, I want to use the word mistreated. He said, I could no longer sit still. I had to do something. I had to. And already there had been rejection. And so what did he do? He went and he didn't go into the temple, so to speak, to pick up anyone. He went and picked up people who had been disenfranchised. So many devotees who had lost their connection to the society, but who still wanted to do bhakti. So he went and picked them up, and so many became attracted naturally and spontaneously. He was doing programs outside in big halls and centers anywhere, and who wanted to come would come. But you can see every word he spoke, everything he did. I remember him in 1996 when he came to Seattle. Srila Gurudev was speaking on Srila Prabhupada's Upadeshamrita. Shyamrani Didi was reading the verse, and then he would stop her every couple of sentences and explain, this is what he's saying here, this is what he's saying here, this is what he's saying there. What our Srila Prabhupada was saying. It's like he's giving a class on our Srila Prabhupada's books, based on our Srila Prabhupada's purports, giving proof from Srila Prabhupada's purports and our acharyas. Okay, there's no harm in that. Everything was perfectly aligned, but I remember him saying at that time, and this really struck me, that for the last 50 or 60 years, I have been chanting a minimum of 1 lakh of Harinam every day. Minimum is 64 rounds. And when I wasn't extremely busy, then I would chant a minimum of 2 lakhs. And I was like, I don't know anyone else who's doing that. When Sudevi and I had a chance to chant like that intensely, some of our family members found out, and they said, we heard you're chanting a lot of japa. And we said, yeah, how did you find out? And they're like, is there any special reason? And we said, yes. And they got so excited, their eyes were like twinkling, and they just went, a baby! And we just looked at them and said, no, we want bhakti. And they looked at us like, what? You know, you want? It was almost like a disconnect. You want bhakti, so you're chanting more? Like, people just thought that if you chanted more than 50 rounds, it means you wanted to make a baby. But our Gurudev was chanting a minimum of 64 or 128 rounds every single day for more than 50 years. And never, ever deviating in his, not for a micro moment, any of his quality or character. Completely in line. Very strong as well. With Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Ask any of his disciples who lived with him for many, many years how strong he was in his sannyas ashram. How strong he was in his sadhana, in his bhajan, in his own internal practice and his own external practice. Even his name, they would say, oh, Narayan Maharaj. Everyone was cleaning and doing something because he was so strong. People think that he was just Mr. Sweet ball of love and affection. Yes, that too. He manifested that more for us afterward because he knew we were so weak. But for those persons who lived, they said just his name, their legs would start shaking and they would immediately start to do what they should be doing. How strong and powerful. And preaching so strongly. He set everyone straight in all of Brajmandal. He would challenge even the Pandits and the Pandas of Gokul, Nandagaon, everywhere, and establish Srimad-Bhagavatam and the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the teachings of Rupa Goswami. Now, our Gurudev was no lightweight at all. So strong, so heavy was his Gurutva. So someone who's trying to dismiss him that, oh, he's teaching, it's too high. Maybe for them it is. We can accept that. For that person, maybe. But we cannot deny that this teaching is too high. Otherwise, there's no scope for anyone to be able to progress to perfection. Does that make sense? Oh no, we can't ever hear that. Ever. It's too high. We can't ever chant more than 16 rounds. It's too much. Well, we can't start eating more lightly. We need to eat really heavy because, well, the Sunday love feasts. We can't follow the orders of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu not to eat heavy, not to dress luxuriously. That's too high. We won't follow Upadeshamrita. We won't follow Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. We won't chant 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs a day. We won't hear the pastimes of Krishna. We will only focus on your body in the negative. You're not it. And reincarnation and vegetarianism. There's no scope for progression on the path of bhakti. This is not what our Srila Prabhupada came to give. Our Srila Prabhupada came to bring everyone to perfection. And it can be, and it must be possible. Because that's what Mahaprabhu wanted to give. That's what Rupa Goswami wanted to give. That's what all of our Guru Varga's intention. That's what they all came to give. And that includes 1000% our Srila Prabhupada. And also our Srila Gurudev. So I just needed to say that very strongly so that if in case anyone has seen this thing, which is some kind of offhanded dismissal of such an amazing, great, wonderful, perfect personality. There's nothing they can find, nothing that is not in line with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, within his teachings, within his character, within his own practice, and within his own position. There is nothing. Only those who want to remain neophyte forever. They will try to find fault with those who are on that level. And they will find fault with their own guru as well. I asked someone in 1997 at the Gurukul Reunion Park, a very prominent person, sannyasi, prominent, top of the top. I asked them, if your own guru came back, but in a different form, speaking the same, but not from within your society, would you accept him? He thought about it for a minute and he said, in all honesty, probably not. That for me was enough. If someone who is in the top of the top of the top of the top, that person who is the leader, master, the spiritual master of so many, cannot recognize his own guru. If his guru were to come in a different physical form, but the same personality, would not recognize or accept, then this is not the function of someone who is a true tattva-darshi. They can't even recognize their own guru. How can they recognize Krishna? How can they recognize truth? How can they give truth? They can give knowledge, information, but not truth. So our Srila Gurudev was giving according to the questioning capacity of those who were coming. They wanted to know about bhajan, about raganuga bhajan. And so he was answering accordingly. If they couldn't handle it, that's their own weakness. But his practice, he has every right to be that way. And so does Rupa Goswami, by the way. Oh, so does Jiva Goswami, and Sanatana Goswami, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and Narottam Das Thakur, and Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and all of our Guru Varga. They have every right to be that way. And yes, from the perspective of the bottom of the conceptions of Krishna consciousness, they all might be appearing to be too high. But that does not mean that they don't have that qualification, that right, or even the right to disseminate the results of their bhajan. That is the bhajans of Narottam Das Thakur, the bhajans of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, all of the writings of all of our acharyas, Śrī Caitanya Charitamrita, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, Krishna book, all of these literatures are full of very high esoteric conceptions that we should all be able to gradually appreciate, aspire to, and hopefully attain. And we need examples. So we've seen some examples of those who have attained to that level. Do they not have the right to present? Did Rupa Goswami not have the right to present? Did Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur not have the right to present? Did Bhaktivinoda Did Bhaktivinoda Thakur not have the right to present what he presented in Jaiva Dharma? Oh, the third section. Whoops. He's preaching too high. Did Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada not have the right to present that actually our mood is just the opposite of theirs? They're approaching for the purpose of, they only respect Radhika because of her connection to Krishna, but our mood is opposite. Really, the only reason we have anything to do with him is because of his connection to her. Is he not allowed to present that? Is he not allowed to practice Raganuga Bhajan? Is our Srila Prabhupada not allowed to practice Raganuga Bhajan? Is Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj not allowed to practice Raganuga Bhajan? Are those who are qualified not allowed to practice or preach? They were preaching. Srila Prabhupada gave it all in his books. Was he preaching too high? When he said our mission is to become one of the Gopi Jan? Oops. Was he preaching too high when he was singing Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari and Yashomati Nandana? Because his Gurudev didn't allow that. Neither did his Gurudev allow the reading of Sri Caitanya Charitamrita without being under direct guidance. But our Srila Prabhupada distributed it boldly in the streets all over the world. And Krishna book, the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis, boldly all over the world, distributed it in the streets by the millions. Was he going above his adhikar? Was he not allowed to be that way? Was he not allowed to distribute that? Was our Gurudev not allowed to speak on Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Bhajan Rahasya? Was he not allowed to practice what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is recommending? Was he not allowed to go deep into the teachings of Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Ujjvala Nilamani, or Upadeshamrita? Was he not allowed to dive deeper into the inner esoteric teachings of Sri Caitanya Charitamrita? Is everyone forever barred from receiving what Mahaprabhu wanted to give to this world? No, absolutely not. Maybe not everyone is qualified, but we should become qualified to receive that. And it is possible. It is our birthright. The fact that we've even come to this line is the greatest source of hope that one day, for sure, this not only will, but must manifest in our lives. Whether it's this life or the next, it must. Nama Shrishtam Manamapi Shachiputramatra Surupam Rupam Tasyagrajamurupurim Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivarvaho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratitakapaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi. Raghunath Das Goswami is glorifying his Gurudev. Why? Offering his pranam, Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi. Why? He has given me Harinam. Oh my God, Srila Prabhupada gave Harinam. Did he not know that that is Radha Krishna Jugal? Together, being called out in the streets by everyone? Those who are qualified and those who are not qualified? Shachiputram Atraswarupam. Sachiputram. Did he not tell everyone the name of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Jai Sachinandan Jai Gaura Hari. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. This highest esoteric conception presenting the Prem Murti of Radha and Krishna to the world. Did he not do this? He did. He gave Śrī Caitanya Charitamrita. He gave Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu to the world. And not only that, but he gave our 6 Goswamis to the world. Swarupam, Swarupdamodar Goswami, Rai Ramananda, and our 6 Goswamis. Krishno Kirtana Gananartana Paro Premamritambo Nidhe Dhira Dhira Jana Priyo Priyaka. Oh my God. Radha Krishna Padaranda Bhajananandena Sammohito. Radha Krishna Gunasmriter Madhurimanandena Sammohito. Again and again and again. Gopi Bhava Rasamrita Bilahari Kallola Magno Muhur. Listen how many times he's recorded that bhajan. And how many times he was praying in that. How many times he referenced it. Glorifying our 6 Goswamis. Who they were, what they were doing, what they came to give. And he himself was also weeping and calling out those glories of these 6 Goswamis. And also saying that we are coming in this lineage of Rupa Anuga Vaishnavas, that we want to be followers of Rupa Goswami. Our Srila Prabhupada gave this. So Rupam, Tasyagrajam, Rupa, Sanatan, all of them. Urupurim, Maturim, Goshtavatim. And my Gurudev has given me relationship with all of these and with the Dham, with Vrindavan. If you come to Vrindavan, what are we doing in Vrindavan? The purpose of being in Vrindavan is to remember the sweet pastimes of Krishna and all of the pastime places of Krishna, to receive the benediction of the dust of Vrindavan, which is every particle is surcharged with the moods of the Vrajabasi's love and affection for Krishna. Jamuna is here, Govardhan is there. All things are favorable for remembering Krishna's names, forms, qualities, and pastimes. And all of the devotees, all of the associates of the Lord. Radha Kundam, Girivar Maho, also giving relationship with Radha Kund and Giriraj, Govardhan. Radhika Madhavasham, and also establishing Radha Krishna everywhere. Radhika Madhava. Who is Radha Madhava? Who is Radha Krishna? What is our hope? What is our aspiration? Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Oh, Tulsi. Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Namo Radha Krishna Seva Pavo E Abhilashi Jeto Mara Sharanaloy Taravancha Purnohoy. I'm just going to recite the meaning of this prayer that we chanted every single morning in case someone didn't get it. O Tulsi, you are the beloved of Krishna. Krishna Prayasi. I am offering my pranam to you again and again. Radha Krishna Seva Pavo, E Abhilashi. My only desire, E Abhilash, is to attain the service of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. Jetomar Sharanaloy. Whoever surrenders unto you, Tar Vancha Purnahoy. Vancha means desires. Tar means there. Purna means complete. Hoy means will be. All of their desires will be fulfilled. More, Jetomar Sharanoy Tar Vancha Purnahoy. Kripa Kori Korotare Vrindavana Vasi. Please give me your mercy and make me a resident of Sri Vrindavan Dham. More e abhilash. My only desire, bilas kunje diobas, is to reside within the kunjas where Radha and Krishna are performing their sweet amorous pastimes. Nayane heribo sada. So that with my eyes I will always be able to behold Yugala Rupa Rashi. Yugala Rup means Radha and Krishna's Yugal, Radha Krishna conjugal and their sweet pastimes. Enive Danadhara. My only supplication, Sakira Anugata Koro. Please make me a follower of the gopis. Seva Adhikara Diye. Give me the qualification for seva. Koro Nija Dasi. Make me your own maid servant, your Dasi. Dina Krishna Dase Koi. This very lowly and fallen servant of Krishna is praying. E Jena Mor Hoy. This is my only desire. Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sada Yena Bhashi. May I always drown or swim in the prem of Shri Radha and Krishna. Every single morning, every day without fail, we are chanting this. But we don't think about it. But that's what Srila Prabhupada gave us. And he gave us Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Malava Girivaridhari, Yashodanandana, Braja Janananjana, Jamuna Tira Vanachari. This is all highly esoteric, very, very, very high and deep. Oh, wait a second. Samsara Davana Lalidhalo Katranaya Karunya Ghanaganatvam. Within this also, what is it telling? First Mahaprabhu's Kirtan, then it says, Shri Radhika Madhava Yorapada Madhurya Lila Guna Rupa Namnam Pratikshana Shvadhanalolu Pashya Bande Guru Shri Charanarabindam. What is the quality? What is the nature of my Gurudev? My Gurudev is always serving Radha and Krishna with intense greed. Lolu Pashya. Within the kunjas of Vrindavan, Shri Radhika Madhava Yorapada Madhurya Lila, in their sweet Madhurya Lila, Guna Rupa Namnam, always remembering Krishna's and Radhika's names, forms, qualities, and pastimes. And then, Nikunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhyayayali Bhir Yuktir Apekshaniya. This is said first thing every morning. My Gurudev is expert in assisting the gopis in serving Radha and Krishna within the Nikunjas of Vrindavan. Tatrati Dakshat Atiballabhasya. Very, very near and dear to Radha and Krishna. Who is that? The maidservants of Srimati Radhika. This is my Gurudev. This is how we see Sri Guru in our Rupanuga Guru Varga. And this line of Rupa Goswami. And for those who don't know the very last line of that prayer, Srimad Gurur Vashtakameta Duchay Brahme Muhurte Patati Prayatna Yashtena Vrindavana Nata Sakshat Sevaiva Labhya Janushonta Eva. What is that saying? Anyone who chants this Guru Vashtakam first thing in the morning, Srimad Gurur Vashtakam Etat Uchay Brahme Muhurta, in Brahma Muhurta, Patati Prayatnat. Yashte, this is the blessing of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Yashtena Vrindavana Nata Sakshat. One will have or receive in this very life direct darshan of Vrindavana Nath, Sri Krishna, and Sevaiva Labhya Janam, and will receive service to his lotus feet. So Srila Prabhupada was giving all opportunity and possibility through everything, also engaging us in chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra constantly. So he has given us assurance of all of these, attainment of all of these things. And the process, with intent that we would actually take it up and follow it, not that we would neglect it and forever be in the first or pre-first grade, kindergarten. This is not his intention. It is not the intention of any parent to repress their child to remain on the level of a first grader forever. Does any parent want their child to never, ever be able to develop? No, they want their children to grow up, to become functional units in society, to contribute and to become more than themselves. Every parent wants that, always. They always want to see their children thrive and to grow and to make them proud. Yes, this is the function of all of our Guru Varga. They want to take us and bring us and connect us to Krishna in the quickest way possible, not to repress our capacity, our hopes, our aspirations, or even our qualification. Some have qualification, some may not. But we should make allowance for everyone to gradually become qualified. And our Gurudev made this point again and again and again, not to remain in the same class forever. If it is a science, it must be progressive. And Krishna consciousness is a progressive science. It is a process. It doesn't stop. It continues. And through Harinam, through taking shelter of Harinam Prabhu under the guidance of Sri Gurudev, one should not only hope, but one should expect that they will actually, really, truly progress and continue to progress and develop beyond the realm of Vaidhi Bhakti to the realm of Raga Bhakti or Raganuga Bhakti. One day, one sweet day, it should be possible, not only for the seniors, but also for everyone to eventually come to that point. So our Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, in his own words, did not give anything new. Same wine, new bottle. And once he even said, it's not even a different bottle, it's exactly the same, it's the same, it's the same. It's all there in his books. And if he didn't directly write on it, he gave reference to it. It's there. It's the same thing. I'm not telling anything new. I'm only giving what is there. What he also wanted to give. He wanted to give what Rupa Goswami came to give, what Mahaprabhu came to give. So now I have to look back at the comments here, because I'm quite impassioned on this point. Just so you know, when I was 3 years old, 4 years old, I was growing up in the Los Angeles community of devotees there, in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and it was quite common knowledge at that time. Anyone who was around before 1980, before 1977, before Srila Prabhupada physically departed from our vision, they will know, everyone will know that it was quite everyone was aware what our goal was. Everyone was aware what the goal of Krishna consciousness in this lineage was. It was to become one of the gopis. It was to become, to become a gopi in Vrindavan. It was known. Otherwise, a 3 or 4 year old wouldn't have known that. And it's not like my father and mother were constantly saying it. It was just the understanding among Prabhupada's disciples at that time. And Jiva Pavana Prabhu may be able to confirm that. Devaki Didi may be able to confirm that. Definitely, that's what it was. Otherwise, as a 3 year old, I wouldn't have known. 4.
Wow.
Yes, the electricity is going crazy today. Okay. I'm just checking the comments here. Interesting what Krishna Premabhati wrote. Yes, so many were receiving information, knowledge, and then representing it in a sense as their own realizations without giving credit to where it's due. So many were doing that. And writing books as well, very rasik books, as if they realized it, but not giving credit to where they were learning it from. And this was many, many, many persons. So that in itself is somewhat of you can say, some kind of an aparad. We must quote authority and we must quote our sources. We should not claim to be the knowers and the givers of truth, Even our Guru Varga always quotes their sources, although they are knowers of truth and givers of truth, and they are qualified to give it because they are connected, yet they still quote authority because that is our process. To just give what you're receiving, but not to quote your source, this is akritagya, ungrateful. And the result of that is that one's bhakti will also weaken. You can give for years and years and years and years, the best of what you have. And then someone will just take it, run with it. Gurudev said they are like dacoits. Not even say it about everyone, but about one or two. They were just taking everything and then presenting it themselves as their own, but not giving credit. He said, like dacoits, but anyhow, he said no harm. He wanted these conceptions to be able to be shared. And so in either case, he felt that his mission was being fulfilled because these conceptions that Mahaprabhu wanted to give and what Rupa Goswami wanted to give and what our Guru Varga wanted to give, what Prabhupada himself gave, but were being in essence covered or repressed or just avoided, now they were being presented. One should give credit where credit is due. Kutinati means duplicity or kapata, and kaitava means cheating. So they're kind of the same thing. But if someone is presenting the information, it's okay. But one should still give honor and credit to where they have received it. And if someone is practicing what they have received, then at least internally they should give credit where that credit is due. There was also the harm that some were not fully realizing what was given to them and trying to present it with the motive of presenting themselves. Yes, there was that, and big books written about so many subject matters, and because I've heard from our Srila Gurudev for so many years, I could recognize it. I'm like, that's my Gurudev's wording. That's the way my Gurudev exactly presented Guru Tattva. And I see it on the web pages and in the books, and I'm just like, okay, we know where it came from, but there's no credit given. That's okay. Our Gurudev was not upset by that. His mood was, if someone is even against him, no harm, they're like naughty boys, still I must try to help them, he said. Qualification for getting Raganuga Bhakti is loyum, not the purity attained from sadhana bhakti, because if we wait till purified, we will wait many lifetimes and miss the chance. Well, our Gurudev was very clear with this. He understood that. Even with his own godbrother, Srila Bhaktivedanta Trivika Maharaj, they would always have these mock arguments. He said they're not qualified for loyam, and our Gurudev would say, what are you talking about? How can you give a qualification for greed? And then he would give the example. Even if someone is ugly, even if someone is old, even if someone is toothless, even if someone is penniless and a drunk, can you take away their greed to marry Princess Di? He would say, Diana. Can you remove their desire? Can you tell them you're not allowed to have that? You can tell them, but you can't remove it. If someone is if some desire is awakened in someone's heart to want to love and serve Krishna, can you remove it? And our Gurudev established through all Shastra that it is impossible to remove all anarthas without first placing Krishna. That is why the recipe for the disease of lust in the heart, hridrogam, is to hear Rasalila pastimes from that person who has no lust. And our Srila Prabhupada wrote so many letters and told this to so many devotees. Vikriditam brajavidubir idam cha vishnum shradhan vito nishinuyad atavarnayadya bhaktim param bhagavatim pratilabhya kama hridrogam ashpapahinotya chirena dhira. If you could just get rid of lust, then why would this verse in Bhagavatam say that it is the transcendental calm which removes the mundane calm? The transcendental prem descends, and by that the material lust is kicked out. Devotees would write to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, please help me, I'm so full of lust. My father wrote to Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada's letter came back, read my Krishna book, the Rasa Lila section. Yeah. This was his recipe for removing lust from the hearts of his disciples. To read the Rasa Lila pastimes of Krishna book. And he told it to so many devotees. And then our Gurudev would quote Narottam Das Thakur. Prema bhakti jaha hoite avidya vinasha jate. By prema bhakti will manifest, will descend by the mercy of Gurudev, ultimately by the mercy of Srimati Radhika. And by that prema bhakti's manifestation in the heart, avidya vinasha jate. Ignorance will be destroyed, vinasha. Avidya means anartha is ignorance, svarup, brahm, illusion, all of these things will be eradicated from the heart by the positive presence of prema bhakti. Again, in Śrī Caitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Surya Sama Maya Hai Andakar. Krishna is like the sun and Maya is like darkness. Andakar. When the sun is rising, automatically the darkness dissipates. So the positive comes, the negative is removed. And our Srila Prabhupada used the term again and again, higher taste. They even made a cookbook out of it. But a higher taste, what does that mean? When the higher taste comes, automatically the lower taste is given up. So lolyam, this greed, is the root qualification for bhakti. How can I develop by only apparently repressing anarthas? How can I develop qualification for bhakti? We can look and see plainly. After 20, 30, 40, 50 years, have the anarthas been removed? I can tell you straight up. From personal experience, because I've also been around for almost 50 years in the association of devotees, that by my own strength, anarthas are not removed. We must follow the process as given by our acharyas. If we create some new process and claim that, well, I'm just going to remove my anarthas and then I'll be qualified for Krishna bhakti, that's not going to happen. The qualification for bhakti comes as a result of bhakti itself, as a result of association with the bhaktas, bhakta sanjataya bhakta. That is how it will come. So our Srila Gurudev presented all of these proofs, evidences from Shastra, so that we would not become confused. Here's the evidence, here's the evidence, here's the evidence, here's the evidence, and loyam, greed, is the requirement. And that greed will be awakened in the association of devotees despite our qualification or disqualification. Do we have greed? Does a dog have the right to go into the shop and take rasamalai? Srila Gurudev would say, no, he doesn't have any money, he doesn't have any qualification, he can't purchase it, but he can still desire it. He will lie outside with his tongue salivating and dripping, waiting for anyone to give mercy. They will eat the rasmalai, they will even drink all the juice, but then they will throw that bowl, that leaf bowl, and the dog will run for it and lick every last drop out. Who can stop that dog from having the greed for that? So even though we might not have any qualification, still desire or greed can come by associating with those who have that connectedness, who have that desire to love and serve Krishna. I believe they published all of these lectures on purebhakti.tv. Also, they're publishing them on the harikatha.com. We've got a bunch of the cassettes in America. But yeah, they're there. Beautiful questions also, deep questions. So many asked by so many prominent personalities, and you can recognize their voices when they're asking these questions, and he would answer to them according to their questions. Okay. I'm just reading your questions and comments here. Srila Gurudev said, and this is one of the reasons I'm being strong at this point, he said if anyone basically goes against your transcendental Gurudev and you don't defend them, you don't defend your Gurudev, then you're no more than any kind of impotent person. Basically, he states that you must defend, you must speak out, and you must represent if you have that capacity. If anyone is being like that toward your transcendental Gurudev. He said, otherwise you should run, cover your ears, and jump in any ocean, lake, or river with all of your clothes on and pray for forgiveness for hearing this. So I saw what I considered a kind of dismissal or denigration toward our Gurudev. For what purpose? No purpose.
The Devotee seniors called you very upset.
Yes, many other senior Vaishnavas actually were, they had connected with me and mentioned it, and they wanted to say something, and I thought, well, I have a platform here, and I must speak it out, and since apparently others saw it, it's good that I'm...
They saw how they worshipped Gurudev.
They were also present there at the time and witnessed how these personalities were worshipping our Gurudev, and saw how they had submitted and everything, and then saw the subsequent, it was just change for no apparent reason, without any good reason or excuse. So, even in Nectar of Instruction, Srila Prabhupada mentioned other books by Rupa Goswami too, in the preface, Vedanta Madhava, Lalita Madhava, but Upadeshamrita constitutes the first instruction for neophyte devotees. One should follow these instructions very strictly, then it will be easier to make one's life successful. Hare Krishna. Keep going. First step, keep going. Prabhupada paved the way for Mahaprabhu's mission to be fulfilled. Without Prabhupada, who else would have known of this merciful form outside of little Bengal, India, of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Srila Prabhupada writes in the preface of Nectar of Instruction, what the mission is, the science of Krishna, is the most exalted conjugal love. Jiva Pavana Prabhu adds, coincidentally, I've been reading and rereading this lately. I've been thinking of doing a presentation of sections of it with quotes from Prabhupada's books to show the oneness of the conceptions of Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Yes. Understanding that in teaching babies, the teacher has to give higher topics to advance the babies. The higher topics entice the babies to advance. If not given, the babies stagnate, right? Imagine if we only were ever left at 1 + 1. And I'm not saying that that's what Prabhupada was teaching. I'm saying that that's what we would be doing to ourselves. What about what happens when you start doing multiplication and then division? The teacher, you go to the next class, and then the teachers give you more, and then more, and more. Our process is a never-ending progression. It is dynamic. That is the meaning of Yavad Ashray Vritti. That even if you think you have come to the ceiling, the highest peak, not only does it not end there, it continues to increase more and more forever. This is the nature of praying. It is always increasing. It is always refining. It is always growing more and more. You want to add?
I was just going to say that, I know you pretty much said it, but some people do say that Srila Prabhupada only gave A, B, and C. And that Srila Prabhupada, he didn't give all of these high things. But our Gurudev said, no, they are there under lock and key. He said everything is there, but he used to say you shouldn't be satisfied just with A, B, C.
Right.
You have to learn the words, then you have to learn to read. So Gurudev would always say everything is there, but we can't see it.
Yes.
I just wanted to say that because sometimes people, they sometimes try to quote Gurudev, but Gurudev never said that everything wasn't there. He always said he gave everything.
Yes.
But who's qualified to open that up and understand it?
They try to misquote Gurudev.
Yes.
And say that Gurudev said that Prabhupada only gave the ABCs.
Yes,
He
but
never
he
said
didn't.
that.
He said we shouldn't be satisfied with ABC. And he would say he wanted to show you all these things. He wanted to tell you all of this, but we weren't ready.
Yes.
You know, what's he gonna, somebody's been there for, 4 or 5 years and he's gonna teach them about Manjari Bhav when, that's not that cheap, not that simple. So it's just something to take into consideration when people do try to quote our Gurudev.
Misquote.
Well, yeah, but they misquote him and they take it out of context because he would always say, everything is there, it's under lock and key. And Sri Guru, when we sit in Harikatha, I remember Kishori Mohan and I when we were adults, and we started reading Srila Prabhupada's books. It was very, very different after we had come to Srila Gurudev. When we went back and started reading his books, Srila Prabhupada's books, we would see that he was writing in English all of the verses. We would see that he was alluding to everything, but before we couldn't see it. So we understood that that wasn't any kind of, saying, oh, Srila Prabhupada didn't give. He did. He gave everything.
Yes.
So, wow.
You could see Aradhyo Bhagavan Brajeshitanayas. He would be writing in English. Anyabilashita Shunyam Tattenukampam Vacho. You can see it everywhere in his purports. Just it's translated in English. All of these shlokas. Actually, his purports are shlokas strung one after the other. They're all garlands of shlokas. And we're looking at the English. But if you have some insight into it, he's referencing all Shastra and presenting it in his purports. So our Gurudev was explaining, and he could understand it also, because Prabhupada's purports were combinations of his own commentary mixed with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada's commentary, with Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's, Bhakti Vinod Thakur's, and all of our acharyas placed all together, and you could see, oh, this is where Rupa Goswami, this is where Bhakti Vinod Thakur. So our Gurudev gave some capacity, but imagine what he could see. He gave us some vision to be able to see according to our qualification or lack of, but what could he see? What can the pure devotees see in what Srila Prabhupada has given? So Gurudev said he gave everything. So those who are saying that our Gurudev said that Prabhupada only gave ABC, they are misrepresenting him. He told us, don't be satisfied with only staying in the ABC. That doesn't mean that that's what Prabhupada gave. He said Prabhupada gave everything, but some of it needs to be revealed or manifested by those who have the eyes to see it. This is important to understand. Balabhadra. Some parents actually have malicious interest toward their children. Let's not be naive and think all parents want the best for their children.
True.
I'm talking about good parents, real parents, Sri Guru.
Munchausen by proxy.
What?
I said like Munchausen by proxy.
Munchausen by proxy, Sudevi said. It's true. Some don't want to see anyone progress beyond themselves, because then it would make it seem that, well, maybe if they progress too fast, that they won't maintain me, they won't see me as their master or something like that. Or we can keep, I also witnessed with some different groups of people how some authorities, including temple presidents, temple commanders, this and that, they didn't want to give the true teachings to certain populations of those who were connected to the temple, because they needed to, I'm going to quote them, keep milking them for donations. They are our cash cow. That kind of mood. So instead of trying to bring them in, encourage them to really engage in the process, you would keep them out at a distance so that at least you can continue making the money. And I felt that this was inherently wrong. That if someone actually really follows the process and surrenders, that not only will they give their money, their time, but they will give their life, their energy, and everything, and they will progress on the path of bhakti, which is the most important thing. Okay. Yep. Okay, so yes, there was some limit on how many times one could chant Radharani's name. I get that. And then someone made that cute Monty Python, what is it, comedy. Like, you can't say Radhe the way he said Radhe. I think you may have seen that.
I think that thing was what?
No, tell.
The Radhe thing? I was thinking, you know, when you see like at New Age programs, or we saw those people in Lithuania and they were like looking in each other's eyes, singing Radhe and
Radha Dasi.
Radha Dasi, really weird things. So I think they're just trying to bypass all the weirdness. They just didn't want Radhe, Radhe, Radhe without Govinda.
Even our Gurudev didn't like that.
Yeah, because some people were starting to just do Jai Radhe or Shri Radhe and singing her name and sort of putting Krishna's name out of it. And so they just, you know, and all this New Age stuff started seeping through. And we've seen it, you know, so I think it maybe got blown out of proportion, but that was the foundational reasons behind it. They didn't want it to become a light thing.
Mm. So yes, there was some limit to how many times one, I mean, it came down to numbers, like in a day, in Kirtan, you can only chant Radharani's name if it's there with Krishna, when you're saying Radha Kanta Namostute or something like that. And then on Radharani's appearance day, maximum of like 3 minutes of chanting Jai Radhe or something like that. I don't know, some resolution was passed. Okay, so I'm just checking here.
You said something, Jiva Prabhu?
I was just reading what he was writing about people claiming transcendental greed.
Yes.
Yes, we also met devotees who claim that we also have transcendental greed and we have no more lust. And we just said, wow, amazing. Dandavat pranam, and we backed away.
And devotees that came to us and said they could see our swarups. And then, you know, fell down with 2 or 3 other persons. So
right, they were claiming that they could see our swarup and the swarups of others, and then afterwards, subsequently falling down. So this is all phantasmagoria. We should also be careful not to be cheaters and not to be cheated. I remember that lecture from Gurudev in Germany. He gave it July 8th, 2007. Nowadays, especially in European countries and in Russia, Neophyte devotees consider themselves very rasik. There was a whole kind of group of some kind of sahaja thing going on. People just made it up. Some weird stuff. You know, this is what happens. People just like to make stuff up to be more profound. Anyway, Gurudev heard about it, and then he spoke strongly about it. They consider themselves very rasik. They want to rasa. They want to go up to the top of the tree of prem at once. They want only maranakya mahabhav, the highest ecstatic devotional love, situated only in Srimati Radhika. They do not like Vaidhi Bhakti, and they don't want to follow it. Such ideas are very dangerous, so be careful about this. Those who maintain these ideas are nonsense sahajiyas. So, I'm not claiming that we shouldn't follow that path, but that we shouldn't remain in the foundational levels forever. We require to follow Vaidhi Bhakti also until a particular time, but we must be under the guidance of those who are Ragatmika, so that we can progress from our Naimittika Dharma toward Nitya Dharma. It must be. So actually our process, even from the beginning, it might look like Vaidhi Bhakti, but there should be some Raganuga Bhakti in it. Meaning there should be some desire for serving Krishna, not only because rules and regulations tell me to, fear tells me to, Shastra tells me to, fear of hell tells me to, so I'm going to do it. There's no love in that. There's no desire to serve Krishna in that. It's all selfish. So that's not related to pure bhakti. It would be considered karma mishra bhakti, the other side of it. So that I don't receive any negative results, I'm going to do this. That was like me in school. I was the best student in the whole school. And the teachers were worried for me. I was, 7 years old, 8 years old at the time. The headmaster contacted my father and said, I think something's wrong with your son. He never gets into any trouble. And so my father told me this so many times. So my father comes to me and asks me, so they're concerned, why you're not getting in any trouble. Because everyone else is getting in trouble. And I said, I don't like to get hit. Because the teachers would smack us or hit us with a spoon or whatever for being naughty. I said, I don't like to get hit, so I'm doing the right thing. I'm just doing what I should do. And my father said, well, it doesn't seem anything wrong with that. Because I did not want to get hit, so I was being good. There's a difference between being good for not wanting to get hit or being good to actually make the endeavor to let's say, please the teacher. There's a big difference between the two. I was doing it in a mood of Vaidhi Bhakti. You can say, I was being good so I wouldn't get hurt. But our process should not be like that. Our process should be, I'm doing this activity to please Krishna. I'm doing this activity to please my Gurudev because I have affection for my Gurudev. Because I want my Gurudev to be proud of me, maybe. Because I want to progress on the path of bhakti. Because I want to attain to my eternal position as a loving servant of Radha and Krishna. There's a big difference between the two, although they might externally appear to be the same. So one thing within Raganuga Bhakti is that although externally it might appear to be Vaidhi Bhakti, the intent is different. Externally it might appear almost exactly the same, but what is the intention? Krishna Bhakti Rasabhavitamati Kriyatam Janikutopi Labhyate Tatra Lolyam Api Mulyam Ekalam Janma Koti Shukritarna Labhyate. The intention is the desire or the greed to serve or please Krishna for his happiness, for his pleasure and his benefit. And that can only be awakened in the association of those who have that kind of mood. Krishna Bhakti Janma Mool Hoy Sadhu Sangha. In the association of those who have this Krishna Bhakti, the root cause of the awakening of that mood of love to Krishna is to associate with those personalities who have it. So Bhakta Sanjataya Bhakta. Gurudev always warned us not to try to jump to the top of the tree all at once. We will fall and break our heads and smash our limbs. He said step by step we should go forward. But that doesn't mean that we should just stay in one place. Step by step. And again, we've told it so many times, don't take a bucket of water out of the river of bhakti and think, now I have bhakti. He said your water will stagnate. Rather, you should enter that river and progress, flow toward the ocean of love, who is Krishna. Akila Rasamrita Murti. Yes, without being under proper guidance, one is sure to deviate. That is absolutely true because of our 4 defects. Therefore, we need to be under the guidance of someone who is free from those 4 defects, and then they will help to keep us in line. Otherwise, our nature is to, as our Gurudev would say, deficiate or deviate. Don't deficiate. Yes, we do not want to become Rasagula Manjaris. Sparing the rod, spoiling the child, is too often an excuse for child abuse. But that's another topic, not for here. Thank you for that. So this topic I felt was extremely important because I had seen this dismissal of our Srila Gurudev from a person of position and someone who had associated with our Gurudev. But I would dare them to prove that anything our Gurudev had spoken or said, or even anything within his own practice, is not completely 1000% in line with the teachings that are within Srila Prabhupada's books, the teachings that are within the books of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the teachings that are within the writings of Srila Rupa Goswami, the teachings of Śrī Caitanya Charitamrita, the teachings of Srimad-Bhagavatam. There is nothing that anyone can find in reality that can dismiss the right and the qualification of our Gurudev to practice Raganuga and Ragatmika Bhakti. Otherwise, if we could dismiss it, we can also dismiss Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Rupa Goswami, and all of our Guru Varga. So, with this, I end this portion of our discussion, but I felt it was imperative that I say something, especially for those who have seen it or heard it. I mean, there was someone else who was who's supposedly on a senior level, but apparently their mind has gone mad, who for some reason tried to inadvertently place blame on our Gurudev for horrific things. And I'm just like, where did you get that from? People creating stuff out of their own minds and trying to pin it on this person and that person and that person. It's all nonsensical. And this is the result of aparad over many, many, many years that someone would have this kind of mood. So I just wanted to share my glorifications. I wouldn't call it glorifications. I want to use the word defense, because so many people would have seen and heard these ideas, and already somehow they've made the name of our Srila Gurudev like a bad word. And there's no real reason for it, no necessity for it, and no reason for it. And there's no proof that anyone can give that our Gurudev is not the embodiment of the teachings of our Goswamis. His character is impeccable. His practice is impeccable. His preaching and teaching is exactly in alignment with the preaching and teaching of our Guru Varga. He has pointed out to us where in Prabhupada's books Prabhupada is giving all of these teachings and conceptions, and that he's not different, that he is in line, and that he is basically giving the same thing. And he also asserted another thing, which is pretty amazing. Imagine if our Srila Prabhupada was still physically present in this world, what he would be presenting. He was writing and dictating Krishna book literally up until his last breath. How important was it for him to give the literatures of our Gaudiya Vaishnava system, Rupanuga Vaishnavism? Up until his last breath, our Gurudev guaranteed that if he were still physically present, he would have given Bhajan Rahasya, Ujjvala Nilamani, all of these other Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and all of the other works of our Acharyas. He would have also given Jaiva Dharma, but he left some remnants. Why not? So that others could present it. So our Gurudev asserted it very strongly. Yes, he would have given all of these things. It's not that just because he stopped, so everything stops forever. No. Guru Parampara continues. Krishna Bhakti continues. Mahaprabhu's Prem Yuga will continue. The process of Bhakti, Bhav and Prem continues. The river of Bhakti is always flowing and continuing to the lotus feet of Krishna forever and ever and ever. And there have always been pure devotees, there will always be pure devotees, and there will always be the capacity for the fallen conditioned souls to be able to hold on to the feet of the pure devotees and be dragged from this dreaded pit of the material world toward the ocean of Krishna Bhakti Rasa. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Rupanuga Guru Varga ki jai, Rupanuga Bhakti ki jai. So if anyone has any questions, comments, or even maybe corrections, I was feeling impassioned to defend my Gurudev from someone who would publicly dismiss him as such. And when one is impassioned, it can be that sometimes one will, as Hanuman, there was a discussion between, Tulsidas, he was reciting Ramayana, Ramcharitmanas, and Hanuman came in a different form as a sadhu and was sitting there. And Tulsidas was explaining that the Ashoka Grove was full of white. It was all beautiful white flowers that Sita was sitting in. And this person, Hanuman, in the audience, looking like a sadhu baba, he took difference. He said, wait a second, you're wrong. That grove was all red. And he said, no, it's here. It's all white. He said, no, you're wrong. It's red. And so there was some discussion back and forth. And then it was revealed that this person was Hanuman. And because at that time he was so fuming with anger toward Ravana and those demons for kidnapping Mother Sita, Hanuman in his anger saw the entire Kunja through the lens of red, and he saw it all as red. So this was his own vision, and Tulsidas was seeing it from a more neutral vision, that yes, anyone could see that it was all white. Our Gurudev has told us as well. So if there's any corrections, additions, subtractions, or anything else anyone would like to add, please share with me, because I'm somewhat open to any criticism or correction. So I would appreciate. Thank you. So now we have come to glorify Guru Tattva in the form of Patik Pavan, Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Wow, that was inspired by Hari Hai Shri Rupa Gosai. So much is in a bhajan, really. Sometimes there's the misunderstanding that anyone who's practicing Raganuga Bhakti is a sahajya. Srila Gurudev personally gave me not just the right, but he even said, you can write something on this, the difference between sahajya Babajis and the good Babajis.
He didn't say can, he said you should.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
So, yes, there are so many who may be sahajya, but that doesn't mean that Raganuga Bhakti is not a real thing and that there can be no one who can practice it. Someone was trying to claim once that, well, you know, some people who are following your Gurudev are sahajya, and I agreed. Yes, it's true. And some people who were following Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada were sahajya, and some people who were following our Prabhupada were sahajya, and so many through so many different gurus of so many different times. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can judge their guru for that. If we were to judge Prabhupada by so many sinful activities that many of his disciples performed after his or even during his presence, well, that wouldn't be fair. Neither would it be fair to judge Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada by some of the nonsense activities that some of his disciples did during his presence or subsequent. Neither our Gurudev. And if we're to judge him according to his practice and his teachings, then we would have to judge Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Rup Goswami and Bhaktivinoda Thakur with the same judgment. And that would be fair, a fair assessment. So I explained it to him like that. Okay, so now it's 7:20 our time. So I want to call for Nityananda Prabhu and Sachinandan Gaurahari at the same time. So Parama Karuna Pahu Dvijana Nitai Gaurachandra. Where'd you go? Page 84 in our Gaudiya Giti Gucha. So Gurudev said if we have the capacity, then we must defeat. We must make that endeavor. And he said, cut their tongues with Shastra. Gurudev said, cut their tongues with Shastra. Cut their tongues means silence them. If someone is speaking some nonsense against one's transcendental Gurudev, then this is the duty of the disciple. And he even utilized Jiva Goswami cutting, who is it? Vallabha at that time, or I think it was, the Digbijay Pandit, when he was correcting Rup Goswami in this verse. I'm trying to remember again. Mukti Mukti Spriha Javata Pishachi from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. But Jiva Goswami made the correction, defending his Gurudev. And so if one has the capacity, then they should, must do it. And by that endeavor, and also by the mamata that comes, very strong mamata will come, then one's bhakti can actually progress, because it is by the mercy of Sri Gurudev and the depth of one's mamata or possessiveness toward one's Gurudev that one can actually progress on the path of bhakti. Shri Guru Charana Padma, Kevala Bhakti Sadma, Bandomui Sadhana Mate. So now we're going to call out for the mercy of Gaura Nityananda in the form of the bhajan by Srila Lochan Das Thakur, Parama Karuna Pahu Dvijana Nitaya Gaura Chandra, page 84. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Parama Karuna Pahuduri Jana Nitai Gaura Chandra Parama Karuna Pahuduri Jana Nitai Gaura Chandra Sabayata Sarashiro Mani Sabayata Sarashiro Mani Kevolo Yananda Kanda Kevala Yananda Kanda Bhajo Bhajo Bhai Chaitanya Nitai Sudrita Vishwaso Bhajo Bhajo Bhai Chaitanya Nitai Sudrita Vishwaso Vishwaya Charya Sera Sera Jiya Vishwaya Charya Sera Sera Jiya Mukhe Bolo Hari se rase mojiya mukhe bolo hari hari mukhe bolo hari hari dekho gore bhai tribhuvane na ramono doyalo data dekho gore bhai tribhuvane na ramono doyalo data Pashupati dhure pashano vidare Pashupati dhure pashano vidare shuni jaro gunogata shuni jaro gunogata samsare mojiya rohini poriya se pode rohino yasho samsare mojiya rohini poriya se pode rohino yasho apano paro Gunjayo shomono yamono garo Gunjayo shomono kohoyero chorodaso kohoyero chorodaso oporomo karuna bahudui jana Nitai Gora Chandra Parama Karuna Ahudui Jana Nitai Gora Chandra Sabayavata Sarashiromani Sabayavata Sarashiromani Kevolo Yaruno Kando Kevolo Yaruno Kando Sabayavata Sarashiromani Kevolo Yaruno Kando Kevolo Yaruno Kando Nitai He Gaur He Nitai He Gaur He O Nitai He Gaur He Nitai He Gaur He O Jayo Nitai Gaurango Nitai Gaurango Nitai Gaurango Jaya Nitai Gaurango Nitai Gaurango Jaya Nitai Gaurango Nitai Gaurango Jaya Nitai Gaurango Nitai He Gaur He Nitai He Gaur He पतित पावन श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम शचिनंदन गौर हरि की धन्यवाद प्रणाम all Vaishnava. And since we referenced Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari, we will now sing Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari, calling out to Radha and Krishna for their mercy. And that will also be followed by Hare Krishna Mahamantra. This is page 158 in our Gaudiya Vaishnava, 158. And it is written by Srila Sachidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He actually wrote many different short, sweet kirtans in the section, I believe it was of, gosh, I don't remember which book it came from, but he has many. There's one Krishna Govinda Hare, another one Radha Vallabha Madhava Shripati Mukunda, Radha Vallabha Radha Vinod, Jaya Shodananda Krishna Gopala Govinda. There's so many different bhajans in that same section with Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. But specifically, Kunja Bihari is a very prominent, very personal, very intimate name of Krishna. Our Srila Gurudev emphatically declared that this term Kunja Bihari only refers to that Krishna who is in the Kunjas with Srimati Radhika and the Gopis. This is not Sakya Ras, it is Madhurya Ras purely. And this was the one that our Srila Prabhupada chose to present every day before giving Srimad-Bhagavatam. And for those who understand Srimad-Bhagavatam, they can understand and see Srimati Radhika saturated within every word and every syllable. As anyone who knows the process of making ghee knows that the ghee particles are saturated within every particle of milk. But there's a process of extracting it. So those who understand, they will see Srimati Radhika present everywhere. And Srimati Radhika is the embodiment, Mahabhav Swarupini Krishna Prema Mai Radha, Radha Prema Mayo Hari. So, she's the embodiment of transcendental love and affection for Krishna. And this is present within this beautiful prayer, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, and also within Srimad-Bhagavatam. So, from Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, then we will go into calling out for the mercy and the grace, the shelter and the loving service of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. O Radha, O Krishna, please accept me, please make me yours, please engage me in your loving service. I am yours, I am yours, I am yours. And we must not forget that also very loudly chanting for the benefit of not only ourselves. Really it is for the pleasure of Krishna, but what pleases him? When we ourselves engage in his loving service, and when we help others also to engage in his loving service. So Jive Doya is a must among the associates and followers of Srimad Mahaprabhu, having mercy on the bound jivas of this world. So loudly calling out the holy names of Krishna, this will benefit not only Krishna, but us and all other jivas. So we will start with Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari, page 158. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jai Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Yashoda Ranjan Yamuna Tiravan Chari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravan Chari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Chandra Vallabha Jaya Girivarodhari Jaya Girivarodhari Gopi Chandra Vallabha Jaya Girivarodhari Jaya Girivarodhari Jai Yashodananda Vraja Jananjan Yashodananda Vraja Jananjan Yashodananda Vraja Jananjan Yashodananda Vraja Jananjan Yamuna Tiravan Chari Jaya Kunja Vihari Yamuna Tiravana Chari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya 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 Yamuna Tiravana Chari Jaya Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Shri Srimati Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol Shri Gurudev Ki Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Rupanuga Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Sudevi,
Yes.
there's some suggestion that somehow Anjali was blocked.
What?
Jiva Bhavana Prabhu, did she tell you that she had been blocked from Sudevi or just from Facebook in general?
What?
Because Sudevi hasn't touched anything and neither have I.
Blocked?
Yeah. Is Anjali able to get on Facebook, or she's just not able to comment in Sudevi's in this broadcast?
There's no way she would be blocked.
Yeah, we can do it.
Did he say?
Dandavat pranam all Vaishnavas. They didn't say, but can you access on your computer and just check if somehow maybe Facebook blocked?
There's no way.
Who knows? Facebook's been acting up lately. She can hear, but she can't comment? That is weird.
No.
Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaye Tarbhaktaye Namo Namah Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Namo Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad-Bhaktivedanta Narayana Namine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Mancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanang pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Harshvasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangam langayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. First of all, I offer my Dandavat Pranam thousands of times in the dust of the lotus feet of our beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad, Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. In the same thousands of Dandavat Pranam in the dust of the lotus feet of Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad, Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and to all of our Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Varga, and to all Vaishnavas past, present and future, including all of you who are present with us today, we offer our Dandavat Pranam. Radhe Shyam. Sudevi's over there trying to, how do you say, check and see what's gone on with the Anjali Saga. Okay. So before, what?
It doesn't look like she's on my friends list.
Yeah, maybe Facebook removed her. I don't know.
There's no, I can't even find her on Facebook.
Anjali? Maybe it's A-N-J...
A-N-J-A-L-I, A-N-J-A-L-I.
E-L-I. One is Anjali and the next one is Anjali. Let me just look back here. If she's there.
No.
Hold on. A-N-J-G-E-L-I space A-N-J-A-L-I.
A-N-G-E-L-I?
Yep.
A-N-J-A?
Yes.
L-I.
Yes.
It says no results.
Wait, she just commented. No, someone put her name there. Okay.
Are they allowed? They're finding her?
Balabhadra just posted in the video the link to her name. So maybe you'd find it that way.
Okay. I don't understand this.
Sonam said Facebook did this to me once and the reason was, quote unquote, you overused the heart reaction. Laugh out loud.
I don't even see Balabhadra here.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, got it. Now I see.
Okay.
It says this content isn't available right now.
We don't know what's going on. Facebook, please get your act together. Thank you. Okay, so before entering into Śrī Caitanya Bhagavat,
Is she here?
she can hear, yeah, she can see, but she can't comment yet. I'm sure they'll fix it before tomorrow. Hopefully. Before entering into Śrī Caitanya Bhagavat, we'll first chant the first two verses of Śrī Shikshashtakam by Srimad Mahaprabhu. Please repeat after me, very loudly. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhavamahadavagni nirvapanam Shreyakairava chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadhu jivanam Anandam buddhi Vardhanam Pratipadam Purnamritashvadanam Sarvatmasnaparam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. And the next verse, please repeat. Nam Nam Akari Bahuta Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrarpita Niyamita Smaranena Kala Etadrishi Tavakripa Bhagavan Mamapi.
She was blocked.
Durdaivam Idrisham Ihajani nanuragaha. If she was blocked, that means someone might have cracked your password, so you need to change your password.
Oh.
Because you didn't do that, you weren't even on it, right?
No, I wasn't even on.
Shri Shikshashtakam ki jai, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. So Anjali
She's unblocked now.
was spontaneously blocked. Not by me or Sudevi, but by something or someone.
Why would they only block her?
I don't know, but quickly change your password before
Okay.
something that you know.
Uh-huh.
Because you didn't do that and I didn't do it, which means someone else or Facebook itself may have access. So if you change your password quickly, maybe whoever has it won't be able to crack or hack anymore.
I don't know how to change it. One sec.
Okay, now we're going to chant the first verse of Śrī Caitanya Bhagavat by Vrindavana Dasa Thakura. Everyone, please repeat after me. This is glorifying Nitai and Gauranga. Ajanulambita bhujo Kanakavadato Sankirtanai kapitaro Kamalaya taksho Vishvambaro dvijavaro Yugadharma palo Vande jagat priyakaro Karunavataro Pati Pavan Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki
Jai.
Prem Purushottam Shachinandan Gaura Hari ki jai. Sudevi? Tweet.
Woo! Tweet. I don't know how to change it. Oh, security and login. Sorry.
There we go.
I'm freaking out here.
Yeah, just do it quickly. But I might get bumped off here.
Yeah, it says that that's.
Wait a second. If you change it, will this continue to stream? Maybe someone didn't like what we were speaking about.
Why would they block Anjali?
Because Anjali is one of our... Oh, look, she commented.
How could somebody get in here? She was in my blocked people.
Yeah, somehow your name actually got into Sudevi's blocked list. And Sudevi didn't do it, and I didn't do it, and it just spontaneously happened, or somebody hacked it. So, before entering into Śrī Caitanya Bhagavat by Vrindavana Dasa Thakura, we will first pray in the dust of the lotus feet of the author and in the dust of the lotus feet of the commentator Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, that may even a particle of their moods which are present within these pages manifest itself within our hearts. Shri Vrindavana Dasa Thakura ki jai, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki jai, Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata ki jai. We may change the password after the stream, otherwise it might cut off mid-stream. Okay? She's back.
But we're not friends or something now.
Oh, Anjali, you have to re-accept Sudevi, or you have to friend request her. Since you've unblocked her, you have to friend request her again, and then she needs to accept it. So, okay. Very strange.
Wow, if anyone else gets blocked, just know I didn't do it.
So yesterday we read text 71, that is page 175 of chapter 2 of Śrī Caitanya Bhagavat, wherein it is stated only the most pious people would recite the names of Pundarikaksha and Govinda at the time of bathing. So that is something Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Param Tarapasyanti Surya Yasmaret Pundarikaksha Sabhaya Dantraha Shuchihi Shri Vishnu Shri Vishnu Shri Vishnu. They would chant these names only to remove their sins, but not for bhakti. So it wasn't even Vaidhi bhakti, it was just reciting the names, but for any other purpose. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada comments that they thought the names of Govinda and Pundarikaksha, they only used it for that purpose, and basically those who were in charge of society at that time, they also thought that the names should not be chanted at any time or by any unqualified persons. In other words, only certain persons could chant the names of the Lord, and so most people were blocked from chanting the names of the Lord. The entire society was only engaged in different levels of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, and even worshipping the devas, but only for material benedictions, but there was no bhakti to Bhagavan to be found anywhere. So ultimately, by Mahaprabhu's verse, Nam Nam Akari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis, Mahaprabhu, he showed who and when the Harinam Mahamantra or any other names of the Lord can be chanted. So by this he was showing that one can chant the holy names of the Lord anytime, any place, in any situation or any circumstance, and no matter who they are, where they are, it is always favorable. Mrigari the hunter was told to chant the names of the Lord. Valmiki, before he became known as Valmiki, the writer of Ramayana, was so sinful, Gurudev had told, and our Shastras have told, that he was like Mrigari. He was hunting and only half killing the animals and watching them slowly die, and this was his enjoyment. He was so sinful that when Narad Muni told him you should chant the name of Ram, he could not chant the name of Ram. How sinful is that you cannot open your mouth and even chant the names of the Lord? So in such a condition, Narad Muni told him to chant the names of the Lord. And he could not do so, so Narad Muni told him, then chant it backwards. Instead of Rama, he told him to chant Mara, which means to kill. So he said, yeah, I'm doing that all the time, no problem. Mara, 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 Mara. After quite a long time, it blended. Mara, 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 Mara. And by the holy name of Sri Ram, under the guidance of Sri Narad Muni, his heart was completely purified. And by that, he was able to witness all of the pastimes of Sri Ramchandra, and he was able to write Ramayana even before Sri Ram made his appearance in this world. Anjali writes, even my daughter Daya was like, no, where's the morning Krishna dude?
I just don't understand. And why would they only choose her to block? Not that you're not important enough to block, of course you are, but...
She's one of the primary commentators on this thread, so... Anyhow. It was a spontaneous blockage. We will remove that spontaneous blockage with an intentional reopening.
We're going to have to check every day.
Yep. So, text 72. We've got 3 minutes again. Gita Bhagavata ye ye janete padai bhaktir vyakyana nahi tahara jivai. Even when someone explained the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad-Bhagavatam, they would not mention anything about devotional service to the Lord. There are many commentators on Bhagavatam and Gita who are fully saturated with the Mayavad conception, and they will somehow extract and speak on these meanings of Gita and Bhagavatam. Sudevi got, was there like some Subramanyam version? You were reading Srimad-Bhagavatam condensed, and even the things that are mentioned, devotional service, somehow there's a twist to it. And anytime it would say devotional service to the Lord, they would add something to the effect of,
becoming one
that means becoming one with the divine.
Yeah, don't read the Subramanyam.
This is just how they've misconstrued the true or original meaning. When it says bhakti yoga, they said, this means to become one with. So the meanings have been changed and shifted and twisted. And so here, they would not mention anything about devotional service to the Lord. Even though it says it directly, still, meanings would be twisted and shifted. Jiva Pavana Prabhu says, sometimes Facebook will block if the algorithm suspects trolling.
Really? After all this time all of a sudden?
I don't know. Maybe Jiva Prabhu is next.
Okay.
We welcome all of you trolls. Radhe Radhe. So, purport by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. In his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad-Bhacharya quotes the following verse from the Mahakurma Purana. Bharatam sarvashastreshu bharate gitikavara Vishnu sahasranamapi geyam patyam chatadvayam. Mahabharata is the best of all scriptures, and Bhagavad Gita and Vishnu Sahasranam are the best parts of the Mahabharata. They should always be studied and recited. Lord Sri Krishna is the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita and Arjuna is the listener. Srimad-Bhagavad Gita consists of 700 shlokas in 18 chapters and is found in the Bhishma Parva of the Mahabharata. It is the first book to be read by persons on the spiritual path. Srimad-Bhagavatam consists of 18,000 verses and is one of the 18 Puranas composed by Sri Vyasa. It is the crest jewel of the Sattvata Puranas. Means those in the mode of pure goodness. This spotless Purana is also called Sattvata Sanghita or Paramahansi, that which is meant for swan-like persons. It is stated in the Garuda Purana, Artoyam Brahmasutranam Bharatatta Vinirnaya Gayatri Bhasya Ruposo Vedatta Paribrahmita. The meaning of the Vedanta Sutras, the full purport of the Mahabharata, the commentary on Brahma Gayatri, and the fully expanded knowledge of the Vedas are all present in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. From this statement, it is understood that this emperor of all literatures, that is the meaning of Paramahansi, topmost swan-like, the emperor of all literatures, or spotless Praman, Srimad-Bhagavatam Pramanam Ammalam, is a spotless evidence, or Puranam Amalam. Even in Bhagavatam directly it is said, Srimad-Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam. The Srimad-Bhagavatam is the spotless or completely pure Purana and is very dear to the Vaishnavas. And in the verse Aradyo Bhagavan Brajesha Tanayas Tadhama Vrindavanam, there it says Srimad-Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam. It is the spotless evidence, Praman. There is no fault, no flaw. It is completely pure through and through. Nothing to be discarded. So it is the spotless Pramana, is also a Shruti, like the Upanishads. See Srimad-Bhagavatam 147, spoken by Shaunaka Rishi to his spiritual master, Shukadeva Goswami. It is also Nyaya, like the Brahma Sutras. And it is also Smriti, like the Mahabharata and the Puranas. So Shruti means it is heard, Nyaya means full of logic, and Smriti means it is remembered. So historical as well. Regarding the glories of Srimad-Bhagavatam, one may refer to the Śrī Caitanya Bhagavat, Madhyakanda, chapter 21, and Antyakanda, chapter 3. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, chapter 1, Madhya Lila, chapters 20, 24, and 25, Antya Lila, chapters 5, 7, and 13, and Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhu's considerations in the Tattva Sandarbha 18 to 28. This literature is always discussed among the liberated swan-like Vaishnavas. So, also in the third verse of Srimad-Bhagavatam, Nigamakalpataror Galitam Palam, Shukamakat Amrita Dravasamitam, Pibita Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavukaha. Those who are Rasik and Bhavuk, they fully relish Srimad-Bhagavatam, which has been made even sweeter by the touch of the lips of Sri Shukadeva Goswami, who, like a parrot, when a parrot touches any fruit, one, you know that that fruit is already sweet, but by the touch of the beak of the parrot, that fruit becomes even sweeter. So, it is also relished by those who are thoroughly honest and free from any envy, nirmatsar. It is always discussed among liberated, swan-like Vaishnavas. So just because it's always discussed by those persons doesn't mean it should not also be discussed by these persons and these persons. We are instructed that we should read and hear from Srimad-Bhagavatam every day. Just because it is a transcendental scripture for those who are of that highest caliber, by regularly reciting and hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam, gradually our anarthas will be removed, we will become purified, and we will be able to receive Krishna. Nashta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavat yuttama shloke bhaktir bhavati nashtaki vidyate hridaya grantish chidyante sarvashanshaya kshiyase chasya karmani drishta eva atmanishvare. At that time, those who studied, at the time in Navadvip, those who studied pure devotional literatures like Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam never explained that worshipping the Supreme Lord is the only duty of the living entities. They never explained it, even though it says straight up, Savai Pungsam Paro Dharmo Yato Bhakti Radhokshaje. Still, they did not explain it, or not properly. That is unfortunate. Their recitation and teachings of Gita and Bhagavatam was meant for achieving immediate sense gratification. And thus they twisted the meanings of these two books to make them appear like the ordinary book Saptashati Chandi, which is meant for satisfying one's senses. So somehow, due to their own vision, they would highlight the verses which appear to be satisfying one's senses. That's kind of like maybe how we might approach Mahaprasad, instead of for bhakti, for our own enjoyment. Or how we may approach Kirtan, instead of for service to Krishna, for our own enjoyment. Or any other process of bhakti. And we, oh, this is so nice, just like that. But instead of talking about how this is meant for pleasing Krishna, we only engage in these activities for our own sense gratification. If one wants, they can approach or see Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita for that purpose. And they will highlight that. And Krishna is non-different from these Shastras. So if they're seeking sense enjoyment, then Krishna will reciprocate with them by only revealing these aspects to them. And they will miss the point, which is loving service to Krishna as the highest truth, distinguished from illusion. So even though Bhagavatam is free from all kinds of cheating religion, Dharma projita kaitava, traparamo nirmatsaranam satam, it is completely cutting, rejecting all kinds of cheating religion. Still, if there is a cheater, they will only try to find those things which support their mentality. Atmavan manyate jagat. As I am, I see the world. If we approach Bhagavatam, which is also non-different from Krishna, with a mood to cheat, then Krishna will reciprocate through that medium, and we ourselves will be cheated. So one should always be under the guidance of the Vaishnava, Jaha Bhagavata Para Vaishnavadasthane. If you want to study Srimad Bhagavatam, then one should do so under the guidance of a Vaishnava. So they were taking twisted meanings of these two books and making them appear like ordinary books, which are meant for satisfying one's senses. And the non-devotee communities now recite Gita and Bhagavat in this way. So this is a reference to those persons who are actually using Bhagavatam and Gita for the purpose of increasing their Kanaka, Kamani, and Pratishta. In other words, they won't give a Bhagavatam class. It's got to be 7 days. It's got to be paid in advance, a minimum of 1 lakh rupees, 100,000 rupees, if not more. A minimum of a certain amount of persons packing their stadium. It has to be such, and it's all a presentation and expertly delivered. But what is the intent behind the deliverer? For most of the deliverers of these pravachans, you can say, there's so many mundane intentions behind. One devotee, nice devotee, told us that there was one very prominent person who was invited to give Bhagavat Sapta. They had their requirements, and this person was given a very nice facility to stay, but they were looking, oh, there's no television here. So instead they left and they went to any hotel where there was a television. And they were the main presenters of Bhagavatam. Very famous for all people to come and hear from and feel so much inspiration from. But if their desire is for increasing their material wealth, then this is the result they will get from their recitation of Bhagavatam. If their desire is for their own sense gratification, which they will increase by their accumulation of wealth, then this is what they will receive from their recitation of Bhagavatam. And if their desire is for name and fame, position and prestige and all of this, then this is what they will receive by the recitation of Srimad-Bhagavatam. And those who are listening to those persons who are speaking Bhagavatam and Gita for that purpose, they will not walk away with an increase of bhakti in their heart. Rather, they will walk away with the mood of the speaker. This is important. The same subject matter can be spoken exactly, word for word, by two different persons. One can be a pure devotee of Krishna, with no attraction to the material world whatsoever. And the other one can be someone who is only absorbed with trying to increase their income, their sense gratification, and their name, fame, position, pride, and everything else. And what will the result be? If you hear from that person the same subject matter, then their mood will react within the heart and you will go down. If you hear from the pure devotee the same exact subject matter and even the same words, word for word, then their mood will come in our heart and we will progress on the path of devotion. Our anarthas will be removed. So all of our acharyas have spoken very strongly on this subject matter, that we should hear from the pure devotees of the Lord, those whose intentions are not to take advantage of the listeners and the followers for some material or mundane gain. Such recitation of Gita and Bhagavat by the conditioned souls who are simply interested in sensual happiness is an obstacle to one's advancement and simply leads one to hell, because that is never recitation of Gita and Bhagavat. So we've heard also in Shastra that milk touched by the lips of a serpent has a poisonous effect. It's interesting because it looks like milk, it tastes like milk, it feels like milk. It has all of the same initial feelings and tastes and flavors. But if it has even one drop of this snake's poison in it, even though you can't see it, you might not be able to detect it, you don't know, but anyhow the poison will act. So milk touched by the lips of a serpent is considered, well, it's untouchable. It will have a negative effect. And here, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada says, if the reciter is simply interested in sensual happiness, then to hear from them, it is an obstacle to one's advancement and will simply lead one to hell. So they themselves are already considered to be in such a place, and those who are listening to such a person with all of those other motivations will also be dragged away from bhakti, even though they're discussing that subject matter. Same with one who is chanting Hare Krishna. If they have a mood which is actually aparad to Krishna, antagonistic to Krishna, if we join that kirtan of self-deceivers and other deceivers, then we will be dragged away from bhakti. So we should try to join the kirtan of devotees of Krishna, especially pure devotees of Krishna. By that, Krishna will be manifested within our heart, not just Krishna, but devotion to Krishna. It is essential to understand these points. Not that, oh, well, they're chanting Hare Krishna, so it's all cool. It's not. There's a difference between a severe Namaparadhis or Vaishnava Aparadhis chanting of Hare Krishna and the pure devotees chanting of Hare Krishna. And to not recognize the difference between the two could mean the difference between heaven and hell for us. So it is essential that we use some God-given discrimination to be able to understand what is favorable for my progress in bhakti and what is unfavorable. We were going to do this kirtan in Germany. Someone had arranged it. There was 5 groups who were going to be attending. And they supposedly had communicated with our Gurudev in advance. And Gurudev gave permission. As soon as it was 1 week before this kirtan program was to begin, and basically each one was going to have their turn on stage, and then everyone else was going to participate. So whoever was going to lead, everyone else would be participating. 1 week before this kirtan program, they gave us the list of the bhajans that would be sung. Soham, Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, Shivoham, literally one after the next. And we realized these are all Mayavadi chants. So immediately we went to the internet cafe at the time, we had to do such a thing, and we sent a letter to Gurudev. Normally he would respond within 2 weeks, 3 weeks or so. As we were still there at the internet cafe, an emergency response came back within half an hour. Srila Gurudev said, because it has already been planned, you can attend. But you cannot use Mahaprabhu's instruments in their kirtan. When they can participate with you, but when they start chanting, you put Mahaprabhu's instruments down. You do not use your voice or even clap your hands. You cannot use Mahaprabhu's instruments in their kirtan. He said, try not to insult or offend, but if they ask you why you're not participating, then you tell them our Siddhanta. This was the instruction of Gurudev. So we ended up going. When we arrived, no one else was there. We had told this person who set it up what Gurudev said. They got really upset and angry at us. They were crying. They were so, why did you tell him? We said, he's our guru. It's our right and duty to communicate with him when we have some doubt or confusion. So they got really upset. They told everyone else. We didn't even know it, but when we arrived, there was no other group except for our group and a bunch of guests. And so we started with Mangalacharan and this, and then somebody raised their hand and they said, where are all the other groups? And it was just the time. It was like Gurudev did what he did through us. Somehow we were able to speak our Siddhanta in a very clear way. And there was a pretty good sized group of people there. From that group, many months later when Gurudev came and did his program in Italy, a group of those persons made their way months later to come and see Srila Gurudev. It was quite amazing. They went to see him, the saint, the sadhu. But we explained that mantra is not just something that you chant. We believe that there is power and there is an effect, a result of chanting any particular mantra. So we don't just chant any mantra. We chant particular mantras for particular results and particular goals. We don't just take it as, oh, it's a free-for-all, we'll chant anything. And what is our goal? What is our process? So we wouldn't, we explained everything like that to them and they appreciated the clarity of our Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta. So Gurudev made it very clear that your voice, your hands, the mridanga, the kartals, all of that, they are all Mahaprabhu's instruments. You cannot use Mahaprabhu's instruments in their kirtan. They can join with yours, but you cannot join with theirs. It was quite interesting and eye-opening at the time, and for us quite revolutionary. So, also through kirtan, through recitation of Bhagavatam, through the recitation of the names of Krishna, through recitation of Bhagavad Gita, through so many mediums, also through the medium of Mahaprasad. What is called Mahaprasad, but who is giving it? What is their mood? What is their conception? What is flowing through that? Today, Sudevi was sharing with me, or last night, what our Param Gurudev Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj was speaking about this. There was somebody who was going to university and they were demanding that, well, he can't bring his own food, he has to eat the food that is prepared there by persons who are not only not devotees, but were in other faiths that were against Sanatana Dharma. And our Param Gurudev, he wrote basically, they cannot mandate or enforce that you have to eat their food. It's against your religious principles. So if they try to force you, you should make a court case against them. And if you need to, you can use this letter as proof. Like this Param Gurudev was sharp. So what will transfer through the medium of the kirtan or the cooking or the delivery of scripture from someone whose mood is antagonistic toward bhakti, or whose mood is offensive toward Krishna's devotees or Krishna himself? That mood will transfer through. So it is actually not so much the subject matter as the person. The person Bhagavat can say to us, hello, how are you? And by that, just by their presence, praying atoms are emanating and our hearts can be affected positively. And a first-class aparati to Krishna can say, oh, you should chant the holy names of Krishna, Hare Krishna. But if underlying there is a mood of antagonism, an aparad to Krishna, then by that association, we can become infected as milk by the poison of a snake. And we can go away from the path of bhakti. So using this discrimination ability, we should try to associate with only those persons who are devotees of the Lord, who are always seeking to serve Hari, Guru and Vaishnava. And by that, we can hopefully progress on the path of devotion or bhakti. This is essential and important. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada says, rather, such recitation of Bhagavatam and Gita by those with the mundane mindsets, those who are only doing it really to increase their sense gratification, such recitation is a collection of ordinary, mundane words for gratifying the senses. Even though it's the same words, even if it's the same shlokas, but it's told by someone whose only intent is sense gratification, then it cannot be considered transcendental. It is simply a recitation of ordinary, mundane sound vibration. This seems to be a theme of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada's teachings. Very, very heavily establishing this point. He also said that about the words of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that some persons have caught every word and they can recite it backwards and forwards without having caught the least bit of its true meaning. So just because someone has the words, it doesn't mean they have the potency. Someone can be vibrating the sound, the external sound, but if their mood is actually unfavorable to or against Krishna, then what will that sound be? The result will be, it will pull us away from bhakti toward the mundane. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj used to describe it or explain it in terms of the sound a gun makes if it doesn't have a bullet but just has gunpowder. It makes a loud sound like a firecracker, but there's no projectile, there's no bullet. So there's no potency, it's only a loud noise.
Remember the time.
And in the same way, they also mention about a lady who goes to the maternity ward and starts making all of the sounds of giving birth, but she's not pregnant. Well, what will she produce? She's only producing sound. She's not producing a child. In the same way, any mundane person who is utilizing scripture or anything for their own sense gratification, increasing their kanaka kamani and pratishta, it will only be mundane sound vibration. There will be no shakti or no potency present. So we're almost finished with this purport. Sri Bhagavad Gita and Srimad-Bhagavatam are the crest jewels of all scriptures. They are as great and as worthy of taking shelter of as Krishna himself. And they are the transcendental manifestations of Sri Krishna Kirtan. They are neither mundane philosophical books nor ordinary poetry, accessible to the mundane ears and tongues of materialistic people. So they're completely transcendental. So they're not accessible to mundane persons. They're accessible to those whom the Lord chooses to reveal himself to. And those who have taken shelter of Krishna's pure devotees, through them, Krishna has chosen to reveal himself to those persons who have taken shelter. So to some degree, we can say it is accessible to those of us who are sincerely endeavoring to take shelter and to receive that mercy of Krishna in the form of Bhagavatam and Gita. So Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita are neither mundane philosophical books nor ordinary poetry accessible to the mundane ears and tongues of materialistic people. This class of speakers and listeners interested in sensual happiness are ever bereft of the merciful glance of magnanimous Mahaprabhu. So there's two kinds. There's the listeners who are listening only for their enjoyment, and there's the speakers who are speaking only for their enjoyment, if it is not for the happiness and pleasure of Krishna. Remember, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Bandhanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. These are all processes of bhakti. Shravana means hearing, Kirtana means glorifying Krishna's names, forms, qualities, and pastimes. But they're processes of bhakti. So we must see them and understand them through the lens of the definition of bhakti. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavritam anukulyena Krishna anushilanam bhakti uttama. Then they can be called bhakti. So by hearing for the pleasure of Krishna, one can attain perfection, as Maharaj Parikshit attained perfection through hearing, Shravanam. Kirtanam also is for the pleasure of Krishna. So seeing through the lens of this, Anyabhilashita shunyam, anukulyena Krishna anushilanam, for Krishna's happiness, pleasure, benefit, if we apply all of these processes of bhakti through the lens of the definition of bhakti, then they can be considered bhakti. Otherwise, they might not be considered bhakti. So this point is very, very important, that we must endeavor to hear for the pleasure of Krishna, speak for the pleasure of Krishna, sing for the pleasure of Krishna. You can say eat, well, serve Mahaprasad, do prasad seva for the pleasure of Krishna. All of the activities that we do on the path of bhakti should have bhakti as its basis. Then those processes can be considered to be bhakti. So this is how our Guru Varga would like us to approach all of these processes. Everything for the pleasure of Krishna, not for any other purpose. Anya abhilashita shunyam, without any other desire. Anya abhilashita shunyam. And not covered by all sorts of extraneous ideas and desires and reward-seeking activities of jnana and karma and all of these other things, but only for the happiness and pleasure of Krishna. By this, our inclination to serve and love Krishna will increase forevermore, and bhakti will manifest in our hearts. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Rupananda Gaudiya Vaishnava ki jai, Patipavana Śrī Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Prem Purushottam Shachinandan Gaura Hari ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Bihari ki jai, Rupanam Gauri Guru Varga ki jai, Patik Pavan Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Ring Purushottam Shachinandana Gaura Hari ki jai, Radha Vino Bihari Ju ki jai, Radha Ramana Ju ki jai, Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Harinama Sankirtan ki jai, Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrind ki jai, Shri Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Govinda Damodar Madhaveti, Govinda Damodar Madhaveti, Govinda Damodar Madhaveti, Govinda Damodar So thank you all very much for being with us today and giving us the opportunity to remember the beautiful teachings of our Gurudev and Guru Varga. Again, if anything that I said was considered good, you should know that that is due to the mercy of our Gurudev, our Srila Prabhupada, and our Guru Varga. If I have said anything that has pinched any of you, you are welcome to present your
court case.
Your court case.
I'll be the judge.
Oh my God. Okay. Anyhow, you're welcome to share with me anything, and I will attempt to address it in the best way possible. I know I spoke some very strong subject matters today, and so I felt it was very important. So thank you for being with me and giving the inspiration for that. Also, we'd like to express our deepest appreciation and indebtedness to each and every one of you for daily giving us the opportunity to follow the order of our Srila Gurudev, which is our life and soul. We look forward to being with all of you tomorrow. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Radhe Radhe Radha Vino Bihari Ju ki jai.
Ci vediamo domani. Hasta mañana. Kal milenge. Tot morgen. Bis morgen. Nitai hala. Ikidatoyas. Ate Maya, Aduma, Feri Betola, Mata Ashita, Radhe Radhe Sham. Hey Mom, hey Lavang, and adiosito. Radhe Radhe, dear Vaishnavas. See you tomorrow. Sorry, Anjali, about blocking. I don't even know what happened.
She didn't do that.
I didn't do that.
No.
Okay, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.